What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, there's an entire highway system running through your body that most people know absolutely nothing about? A network so vast and intricate that it makes your circulatory system look simple by comparison. A system that's literally keeping you alive every single second, yet it remains one of the most overlooked and misunderstood systems in human anatomy. You see, everyone knows about blood vessels. Everyone's heard of arteries and veins. But ask someone about their lymphatic system, and you'll probably get a blank stare. Yet this invisible network is working around the clock to keep you healthy, fighting infections, maintaining fluid balance, and even helping you digest fats. It's like having a dedicated cleanup crew, security force, and transportation network all rolled into one, operating silently in the background of your existence. Here's something that'll blow your mind. You have more lymphatic vessels in your body than blood vessels. Let that sink in for a moment. More lymphatic vessels than blood vessels. Yet most people couldn't tell you what lymph actually is or where it comes from. It's like living in a house and not knowing about half the plumbing. The lymphatic system is often called the forgotten system. And honestly, that's a tragedy because understanding how it works will completely change how you think about your health. When you cut yourself and see that clear fluid before the blood appears, that's lymph. When you get swollen glands during a cold, that's your lymphatic system in overdrive. When you feel sluggish and puffy, your lymphatic system might need some attention. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Unlike your circulatory system, which has the heart as its central pump, the lymphatic system has no central pump. It's entirely dependent on your movement, your breathing, even your muscle contractions to function properly. It's like having a river system with no source. It relies entirely on the landscape and weather to keep flowing. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into this incredible system. We're going to explore how it formed during your embryonic development, how it's structured from the microscopic level all the way up to major organs, and how it performs functions that are absolutely critical to your survival. We'll discover why some people seem to get sick all the time while others rarely catch anything. And spoiler alert, it often comes down to lymphatic function. We'll journey through the anatomy, starting with those tiny initial lymphatics that are smaller than the finest human hair, all the way up to the thoracic duct, which is the largest lymphatic vessel in your body. We'll explore the lymph nodes, those little bean-shaped structures that most people only notice when they're swollen, and discover that they're actually sophisticated biological filtration systems that would make any water treatment plant jealous. But this isn't just about anatomy. We're going to dive deep into physiology, how this system actually works. We'll explore the formation of lymph, its circulation, and its return to your bloodstream. We'll examine the immune functions because your lymphatic system is essentially your body's Department of Homeland Security, complete with specialized cells that patrol, identify threats, and coordinate responses. We'll also look at what happens when this system doesn't work properly. Lymphedema, infections, immune disorders. These aren't just medical terms. They're real conditions that affect millions of people, often because their lymphatic system isn't functioning optimally. Understanding these connections will help you recognize signs and symptoms that you might have previously ignored. And here's something most people don't realize. Your lymphatic system is intimately connected to your digestive system. Those fats you eat, they don't go directly into your bloodstream. They take a scenic route through your lymphatic system first. We'll explore this fascinating connection and how it impacts everything from nutrient absorption to why you might feel tired after a heavy meal. Throughout this journey, we'll bust myths and misconceptions. No, lymphatic drainage massage isn't just a spa luxury. There's real science behind it. No, drinking more water doesn't automatically improve lymphatic flow. It's more complicated than that. And yes, exercise really does impact your lymphatic system in ways you probably never imagined. By the end of this comprehensive exploration, you'll have a complete understanding of your lymphatic system that rivals what medical students learn. You'll know how to support its function, recognize when something might be wrong, and appreciate the incredible engineering marvel that's been keeping you healthy your entire life. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through one of the most fascinating and underappreciated systems in human biology. Trust me, after today, you'll never take your lymphatic system for granted again. Let's start this incredible journey by going back to the very beginning. How this amazing system first develops in human embryos. Let's rewind the clock and travel back to when you were just a tiny cluster of cells, barely visible to the naked eye. Around the 5th week of human development, something absolutely remarkable begins to happen. While your heart is just starting to beat, and your neural tube is forming what will become your brain and spinal cord, another crucial system is quietly beginning its development. Your lymphatic system. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For decades, scientists thought the lymphatic system developed completely independently from the blood vascular system. It was like assuming two separate construction crews built the plumbing and electrical systems in a house without any communication. But modern research has revealed something far more fascinating. These systems are intimately connected from the very beginning. The story starts with your venous system. Around week 5 of development, specialized cells called lymphatic endothelial cells begin to sprout from specific veins, particularly the cardinal veins. Think of it like branches growing from a tree, except these branches are destined to become an entirely separate but connected network. These early lymphatic vessels are called lymph sacs, and they're the foundation of everything that follows. The first lymph sacs to appear are the paired jugular lymph sacs near your developing neck region. These are followed by the iliac lymph sacs in your lower body, the retroperitoneal lymph sac along your spine, and the cisterna chyli, which will become a major lymphatic structure in your adult body. It's like watching a city's infrastructure being planned and built from the ground up, with major hubs established first before the smaller connecting roads. But here's the truly mind-blowing part. These developing lymphatic vessels have to solve a problem that does not exist anywhere else in your body. They need to create a one-way transportation system without a central pump. The solution evolution came up with is absolutely brilliant. Specialized valves that form during development, creating a series of chambers that can only move fluid in one direction. The formation of these valves is a masterpiece of biological engineering. Special proteins guide the development of these tiny doors, ensuring they open and close at exactly the right moments. It's like installing thousands of tiny traffic lights throughout a transportation network, each one perfectly timed to keep traffic flowing smoothly in the right direction. As development progresses, something remarkable happens around the 9th week. The lymphatic system begins to separate completely from the venous system, except for very specific connection points. It's like two communication networks that started as one, then split apart, but maintained crucial junction points for information exchange. These connection points, primarily where the thoracic duct and right lymphatic duct join the subclavian veins, remain throughout your entire life. During this separation process, lymphatic endothelial cells develop unique characteristics that distinguish them from their blood vessel cousins. They express different proteins, respond to different growth factors, and develop the ability to form those specialized initial lymphatics that are so crucial for fluid drainage. It's cellular specialization at its finest. Cells that started similar, but evolved distinct roles. The development of lymph nodes is particularly fascinating. These don't appear until around the 10th week of development, and they form through a process that's like watching sophisticated filtration plants being constructed. Mesenchymal cells, sort of like biological construction workers, migrate to specific locations and begin organizing into the complex structure that will become a lymph node. They create chambers, establish flow patterns, and set up the framework for immune cells to inhabit later. What's remarkable is that the locations of these lymph nodes aren't random. They develop at strategic points along the lymphatic highways, places where multiple lymphatic vessels converge, like major interstate junctions. Your neck, armpits, groin, and deep within your chest and abdomen all become major lymph node regions, because that's where the lymphatic traffic is heaviest. The development of the spleen and thymus, both crucial lymphatic organs, follows its own fascinating timeline. The spleen develops from mesenchymal cells around your developing stomach, while the thymus forms from the third pharyngeal pouch. It's like different specialized facilities being built by different contractors, but all designed to work together in the final system. One of the most incredible aspects of lymphatic development is how it adapts to the growing body. As you develop from embryo to fetus to newborn, the lymphatic system continuously remodels itself. Vessels that aren't needed disappear, new connections form where they're required, and the entire network optimizes itself for maximum efficiency. It's like having a transportation system that continuously updates its routes based on traffic patterns. By birth, you have a fully functional lymphatic system, complete with vessels, nodes, and organs. But here's the kicker. It's still not finished developing. The lymphatic system continues to mature and adapt throughout childhood and even into adulthood. It's a dynamic living network that never stops evolving to meet your body's changing needs. Understanding this developmental process isn't just academically interesting. It has real clinical implications. Many lymphatic disorders can be traced back to developmental issues, and new therapies are being developed based on our understanding of how these systems normally form. Imagine trying to describe a vast metropolitan area to someone who's never seen a city. You'd start with the big picture, the major highways, key districts, important buildings, before diving into the details of individual neighborhoods. That's exactly what we need to do with the lymphatic system, because it's a complex network with components ranging from microscopic vessels to organs the size of your fist. Let's start with the big picture. The lymphatic system consists of three main categories of structures: the vessels, the organs, and the fluid itself. Think of it as the infrastructure, the processing facilities, and the cargo all working together in perfect harmony. The vessel network is absolutely mind-boggling in its scope. We're talking about a system that includes initial lymphatics so small, they make your finest blood capillaries look massive, all the way up to major collecting ducts that are large enough to see with the naked eye. These vessels form an intricate web that reaches virtually every tissue in your body, with a few notable exceptions that we'll explore later. At the microscopic end, we have initial lymphatics. These are the entry points where tissue fluid first becomes lymph. They're structurally unique, with overlapping endothelial cells that create tiny one-way valves. Picture them like microscopic storm drains with flaps that open inward, allowing fluid to enter but preventing it from flowing back out. These initial lymphatics are found in virtually every organ and tissue, creating an incredibly fine mesh of drainage points. From there, the system graduates to pre-collecting vessels, then to collecting lymphatics, and finally to the major lymphatic trunks and ducts. It's a hierarchical system, like a river network where tiny streams feed into creeks, creeks flow into rivers, and rivers eventually reach the ocean. Each level has its own structural features and functions, perfectly adapted to its role in the overall system. The lymph nodes represent the processing facilities of this network. These aren't just simple filters. They're sophisticated biological factories where lymph is screened, cleaned, and enriched with immune cells. Your body contains 400 to 700 lymph nodes, strategically positioned along the lymphatic highways. They're clustered in key regions: cervical nodes in your neck, axillary nodes in your armpits, inguinal nodes in your groin, and deep nodes throughout your chest and abdomen. Each lymph node is a marvel of biological architecture. They have distinct regions: the cortex, paracortex, and medulla, each with specialized functions. It's like having different departments in a factory, each handling specific aspects of lymph processing and immune surveillance. The cortex contains B-cell follicles, where antibody-producing cells mature, while the paracortex is rich in T cells that coordinate immune responses. Then we have the primary lymphatic organs, the thymus and bone marrow. These are like the educational institutions and training facilities of the immune system. The bone marrow produces all the immune cells, while the thymus serves as a finishing school for T lymphocytes, teaching them to distinguish between friend and foe. The thymus is particularly fascinating because it's most active during childhood and gradually involutes with age, which partially explains why children are more susceptible to certain infections. The secondary lymphatic organs include the spleen, lymph nodes, and specialized lymphatic tissues like the tonsils and Peyer's patches in your intestines. The spleen is like a combination blood filter and immune command center, processing old blood cells while maintaining a reserve of immune cells ready for deployment. It's the largest lymphatic organ in your body, roughly the size of your fist, tucked under your left rib cage. The tonsils represent your body's first line of immunological defense against inhaled and ingested pathogens. There are actually several sets of tonsils: palatine, pharyngeal, and lingual, forming a ring of lymphatic tissue around your throat. They're strategically positioned to sample everything that enters through your mouth and nose, like security checkpoints at the entrance to your body. Peyer's patches in your small intestine represent another crucial component. These collections of lymphatic tissue monitor your digestive tract, which faces the enormous challenge of distinguishing between beneficial bacteria, food particles, and potential pathogens. It's like having border patrol agents who need to allow legitimate travelers while stopping smugglers. The lymph itself is the third major component, a clear to slightly yellowish fluid that carries proteins, fats, immune cells, and cellular debris. Unlike blood, which has a consistent composition, lymph varies significantly depending on where it originates. Lymph from your intestines is rich in fats after a meal, appearing milky white, while lymph from your limbs is typically clear with a high protein content. What's remarkable is how these components work together as an integrated system. The vessels collect and transport, the nodes process and filter, the organs produce and educate immune cells, and the lymph serves as both transport medium and communication system. It's a level of coordination that makes the most sophisticated human-designed networks look primitive by comparison. Understanding these components and their relationships is crucial, because problems in one area inevitably affect the entire system. A blocked lymphatic vessel can cause swelling, overwhelmed lymph nodes can become inflamed, and compromised organs can lead to immune deficiencies. It's all interconnected, which is both the system's greatest strength and its potential vulnerability. Now we're going to zoom in and explore what might be the most ingenious structures in your entire body, the initial lymphatics. These microscopic vessels are where the magic begins, where ordinary tissue fluid transforms into lymph and starts its journey through your lymphatic highway system. If the lymphatic system is a river network, these are the springs and seeps where it all begins. Initial lymphatics are so small that they make your blood capillaries look enormous by comparison. We're talking about vessels with diameters of 10 to 50 micrometers. That's smaller than the width of a human hair. But don't let their size fool you. These tiny structures are engineering marvels that solve one of the most challenging problems in fluid dynamics. How to create a one-way entry system that opens when pressure builds up but seals tight when it needs to. The secret lies in their unique structure. Unlike blood capillaries, which have tight junctions between endothelial cells, initial lymphatics have overlapping endothelial cells that create what scientists call primary valves. Picture roof shingles, but instead of keeping water out, these cellular overlaps create tiny doors that open inward. When tissue pressure increases, these overlaps separate, creating gaps that allow fluid, proteins, and even cells to enter. When pressure decreases, these same overlaps press together, sealing the vessel and preventing backflow. This design is absolutely brilliant because it solves a problem that engineers struggle with even today. How do you create a passive, pressure-sensitive valve at the microscopic level that doesn't require any moving parts or external energy? Evolution figured this out millions of years ago through these overlapping endothelial cells. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. These initial lymphatics don't just passively collect fluid. They're actively anchored to the surrounding tissue by protein filaments called anchoring filaments. These filaments are made of various proteins, including fibrillin and elastin, and they connect the lymphatic endothelium directly to the extracellular matrix surrounding them. Think of these anchoring filaments like guy wires holding up a tent. When tissue swells due to fluid accumulation, these filaments get stretched, which actually pulls the lymphatic vessel open wider, creating larger gaps between the overlapping cells. It's like having a drainage system that automatically adjusts its capacity based on how much water needs to be drained. The more fluid that accumulates, the wider the drainage ports open. This mechanism is crucial for understanding how lymphatic drainage works and why movement is so important for lymphatic function. When you move, your tissues compress and stretch rhythmically. This tissue movement creates pressure changes that drive fluid into the initial lymphatics through these pressure-sensitive openings. It's why prolonged immobility can lead to lymphatic stagnation and swelling. The distribution of initial lymphatics throughout your body is remarkably comprehensive. They're found in virtually every organ and tissue, with some notable exceptions. Your central nervous system, bone marrow, cartilage, and corneas lack traditional lymphatic drainage. though recent discoveries have revealed specialized lymphatic systems in some of these areas, particularly in the brain. Different tissues have different densities of initial lymphatics based on their functional needs. Your skin, for instance, has an incredibly rich network of initial lymphatics because it's constantly exposed to potential threats and needs robust fluid drainage. Your intestinal wall has specialized initial lymphatics called lacteals that are specifically designed to absorb dietary fats. Your liver has an extensive lymphatic network because it processes so many substances that need to be monitored by the immune system. The permeability of initial lymphatics is truly remarkable. While blood capillaries are fairly selective about what they allow to pass through their walls, initial lymphatics are much more permissive. They readily allow proteins, lipids, immune cells, bacteria, and even cancer cells to enter. This might sound like a design flaw, but it's actually essential for their function. Remember, one of the primary jobs of the lymphatic system is immune surveillance. By allowing potential threats to enter the lymphatic system, these threats are transported to lymph nodes, where they can be identified and dealt with appropriately. It's like having a security system that deliberately channels potential intruders through checkpoints where they can be properly screened. This permeability also allows the lymphatic system to remove proteins and other large molecules from tissues. Your blood capillaries are constantly leaking small amounts of protein into your tissues, and if these proteins weren't removed, they would accumulate and cause problems. The initial lymphatics act like molecular vacuum cleaners, constantly sucking up these leaked proteins and returning them to circulation. The regulation of initial lymphatic function involves several factors. Inflammation increases their permeability and drainage capacity, which is why inflamed tissues often show increased lymphatic flow. Certain hormones and growth factors can also influence their function. Even the time of day affects initial lymphatic activity, with some research suggesting circadian rhythms in lymphatic drainage. Understanding initial lymphatics has important clinical implications. Many diseases involve dysfunction at this level, from lymphedema to inflammatory conditions. New therapies are being developed that target the formation and function of initial lymphatics, potentially offering new treatments for conditions that have been difficult to manage. These microscopic vessels represent the foundation of lymphatic function, and their elegant design continues to inspire biomedical engineers working on artificial drainage systems and drug delivery mechanisms. Once fluid enters the initial lymphatics and officially becomes lymph, it begins a journey through increasingly sophisticated vessel networks. The next stage involves pre-collecting and collecting vessels, which represent a fascinating transition from the permeable, pressure-sensitive entry points we just discussed to structured transport highways, with their own pumping mechanisms. Pre-collecting vessels serve as the intermediate step between initial lymphatics and the larger collecting vessels. They're typically 50 to 200 micrometers in diameter, making them significantly larger than initial lymphatics, but still microscopic by human standards. What makes these vessels special is that they begin to show the first signs of the structural organization that will become more pronounced in larger lymphatic vessels. The transition from initial lymphatics to pre-collecting vessels is gradual, not abrupt. As you move along a lymphatic vessel, you'll notice that the overlapping endothelial cells of the initial lymphatics gradually give way to more tightly joined cells. The anchoring filaments become less prominent, and the vessel walls begin to develop the first hints of smooth muscle cells. It's like watching a mountain stream gradually organize itself into a more structured river channel. Pre-collecting vessels are where we first see the development of intraluminal valves, actual valve structures inside the vessel lumen that ensure one-way flow. These aren't the cellular overlaps we saw in initial lymphatics. These are sophisticated, leaflet-like structures that project into the vessel interior. Think of them as tiny swinging doors that open in the direction of lymph flow, but slam shut if flow tries to reverse. These valves are crucial because lymph movement in pre-collecting vessels is not just driven by external tissue pressure anymore. These vessels begin to develop their own contractile ability, creating a primitive pumping action. The combination of valves and contractility creates what scientists call lymphangions, functional units that act like tiny hearts distributed throughout the lymphatic system. As we progress to collecting vessels, the sophistication increases dramatically. These vessels range from 200 micrometers to several millimeters in diameter, and they're the workhorses of lymphatic transport. Unlike pre-collecting vessels, collecting vessels have well-developed smooth muscle layers that can generate powerful contractions, creating the primary driving force for lymph movement in the absence of a central pump. The structure of collecting vessels is remarkably similar to veins, but with some key differences. They have 3 layers: an inner endothelial layer, intima, a middle smooth muscle layer, media, and an outer connective tissue layer, adventitia. However, the smooth muscle layer in collecting lymphatics is proportionally much thicker than in comparably sized veins, reflecting their greater reliance on intrinsic contractility. The valvous system in collecting vessels is particularly sophisticated. These vessels contain numerous bicuspid valves, similar to the valves in your leg veins, but proportionally more numerous. In fact, lymphatic vessels have valves every few millimeters, compared to veins which have valves every few centimeters. This creates a series of chambers called lymphangions, each capable of independent contraction. Each lymphangion functions like a miniature heart. The smooth muscle contracts rhythmically, typically at a rate of 6 to 20 contractions per minute, depending on various factors, including lymph volume, tissue pressure, and neural influences. This intrinsic contractility is absolutely essential because lymphatic pressure is much lower than blood pressure, and the system needs to move fluid uphill against gravity in many parts of the body. The contractile mechanism in lymphatic smooth muscle is fascinating and differs from both cardiac and vascular smooth muscle. Lymphatic smooth muscle cells are electrically coupled, meaning they can propagate electrical signals from cell to cell, coordinating contractions across the entire lymphangion. They also respond to stretch. When a lymphangion fills with lymph and stretches, this triggers a contraction that empties the chamber and propels lymph forward. This stretch-responsive mechanism is crucial for understanding lymphatic function. It means that increased lymph flow naturally stimulates increased lymphatic pumping. It's a beautiful example of biological feedback control. The system automatically adjusts its pumping rate based on demand. When there's more lymph to move, the vessels work harder. When lymph flow is low, they conserve energy. The collecting vessels also respond to various external influences. The sympathetic nervous system can modulate their contractility, typically increasing it during stress or exercise. Hormones, inflammatory mediators, and even temperature can affect their function. This makes the lymphatic system highly responsive to your body's changing needs and conditions. Different regions of the body have collecting vessels with different characteristics. Those draining the intestines must handle the periodic massive influx of dietary fats, so they're structured differently from those draining the limbs, which must work against gravity. The collecting vessels in your legs, for instance, have particularly strong smooth muscle layers and closely spaced valves to overcome gravitational challenges. The collecting vessels eventually converge into larger lymphatic trunks, but before they do, they must navigate through lymph nodes. This creates an interesting structural challenge. The vessels must maintain their integrity while allowing lymph to slow down and interact with immune cells in the nodes. The solution involves specialized structures at lymph node interfaces that we'll explore in detail later. Understanding the function of pre-collecting and collecting vessels is crucial for recognizing lymphatic disorders and developing treatments. When these vessels fail to contract properly, or their valves become incompetent, lymphatic flow becomes inadequate, leading to protein-rich fluid accumulation and swelling. As we follow lymph on its journey through increasingly larger vessels, we eventually reach the superhighways of the lymphatic system, the major trunks and ducts. These are the massive vessels that collect lymph from entire regions of your body and return it to the bloodstream. Think of them as the interstate highways of your lymphatic network, handling enormous volumes of traffic from all the smaller roads feeding into them. The lymphatic system ultimately funnels into 2 major drainage pathways: the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. But before lymph reaches these final destinations, it travels through several major trunks, each responsible for draining specific body regions. Understanding this drainage pattern is crucial for medical professionals and fascinating for anyone interested in human anatomy. Let's start with the lumbar trunks, which drain the lower limbs, pelvic organs, kidneys, adrenal glands, and much of the abdominal wall. These paired trunks collect lymph from the extensive networks in your legs and lower body. handling the challenging job of moving fluid uphill against gravity. The lumbar trunks are particularly robust because they must manage the large volume of lymph produced by your legs during walking and exercise. The intestinal trunk is perhaps the most specialized of all lymphatic trunks. It drains the digestive organs, and its composition changes dramatically based on what you've eaten. After a fatty meal, this trunk carries chyle, lymph that's rich in dietary fats, and appears milky white due to suspended fat particles. This trunk must handle not just fluid and proteins, but also the fat-soluble vitamins and other lipids absorbed from your diet. These lower body trunks converge at a remarkable structure called the cisterna chyli, located just in front of your lower spine at about the level of your second lumbar vertebra. The cisterna chyli is like a lymphatic reservoir, temporarily storing lymph before it begins its ascent through the thoracic duct. In some people, it's a well-defined sac, while in others, it's more of a network of converging vessels, but it serves the same crucial function regardless of its exact anatomy. From the cisterna chyli emerges the thoracic duct, the largest lymphatic vessel in your body. This impressive structure is about 40 to 45 centimeters long and up to 4 millimeters in diameter at its widest point. The thoracic duct is responsible for draining approximately 75% of your body's lymph, handling fluid from your lower limbs, abdomen, left chest, left arm, and left side of your head and neck. The thoracic duct's journey through your body is remarkable. It begins at the cisterna chyli and ascends through your posterior mediastinum, initially to the right of your spine, then crossing to the left side at about the level of your fifth thoracic vertebra. This crossing pattern isn't random. It reflects the complex embryological development of the thoracic cavity and ensures optimal drainage patterns. As the thoracic duct ascends through your chest, it receives additional tributaries. The left bronchomediastinal trunk brings lymph from your left lung and associated structures, while the left subclavian trunk drains your left arm. Near its termination, it also receives the left jugular trunk, which brings lymph from the left side of your head and neck. The thoracic duct finally terminates at the junction of your left subclavian and left internal jugular veins, a location called the left venous angle, or jugulosubclavian junction. This connection point is protected by a valve system that prevents blood from backing up into the lymphatic system while allowing lymph to flow freely into the venous circulation. The right side of your body has its own drainage system through the right lymphatic duct, though this structure is often less well defined than the thoracic duct. The right lymphatic duct is typically much shorter, only about 1 to 2 centimeters long, and drains the right side of your head and neck, right arm, and right chest. It's formed by the convergence of the right jugular, right subclavian, and right bronchomediastinal trunks. What's fascinating is the asymmetry of this system. The massive thoracic duct handles 3/4 of your body's lymph, while the much smaller right lymphatic duct handles only 1/4. This reflects the body's developmental history and the way lymphatic territories became established during embryogenesis. These major vessels have specialized structural features to handle their enormous responsibilities. They have well-developed, smooth muscle layers capable of generating significant contractile force, and their valve systems are particularly robust to prevent backflow. The thoracic duct, in particular, has numerous valves throughout its length, creating multiple lymphangions that work together to propel lymph against gravity and pressure gradients. The clinical significance of these major vessels cannot be overstated. Damage to the thoracic duct can result in chylothorax, where lymph leaks into the chest cavity. Obstruction can cause massive lymphedema, affecting large portions of the body. Understanding their anatomy is crucial for surgical procedures in the chest and neck regions. The termination points where these ducts connect to the venous system represent the completion of lymph's journey. Here, the clear or milky fluid that began as tissue fluid in microscopic initial lymphatics finally returns to the bloodstream, completing one of the most remarkable circulation systems in biology. Imagine if you could design the perfect biological filtering and processing facility. It would need to screen millions of particles per day, identify threats, coordinate responses, and maintain detailed records of everything encountered. It would need to be compact enough to fit throughout the body, but sophisticated enough to handle complex biochemical analyses. Congratulations! You've just imagined a lymph node, one of the most remarkable structures in human biology. Your body contains between 400 and 700 lymph nodes, each one a marvel of biological engineering that would make the most advanced water treatment plant look primitive by comparison. These small, bean-shaped structures typically measure just 1 to 25 millimeters in length, yet each one processes enormous volumes of lymph while performing incredibly sophisticated immune functions. The basic architecture of a lymph node is a masterpiece of functional design. The outer region, called the cortex, contains specialized areas called lymphoid follicles, where B lymphocytes mature and produce antibodies. These follicles can expand dramatically when responding to infections, which is why your glands swell when you're sick. The inner region, called the medulla, contains branching channels called medullary sinuses, where lymph flows slowly, allowing maximum contact time with immune cells. Between the cortex and medulla lies the paracortex, which is predominantly populated by T lymphocytes. This region is crucial for cell-mediated immunity and serves as a command center where immune responses are coordinated. The paracortex also contains specialized antigen-presenting cells called dendritic cells, which are like the intelligence analysts of the immune system, processing and presenting information about potential threats. The flow pattern through lymph nodes is ingeniously designed for maximum efficiency. Lymph enters through multiple afferent lymphatic vessels that pierce the capsule around the node's perimeter. This lymph then flows through a series of channels and spaces called sinuses, starting with the subcapsular sinus just beneath the outer capsule. From there, lymph moves through cortical sinuses and eventually reaches the medullary sinuses before exiting through a single efferent lymphatic vessel at the hilum. This flow pattern isn't accidental. It ensures that lymph moves slowly through the node, maximizing contact time with immune cells while providing multiple opportunities for filtration and processing. It's like designing a manufacturing process where quality control happens at multiple checkpoints rather than just once at the end. The supporting structure of lymph nodes is provided by a network of reticular fibers and cells that create a three-dimensional scaffold. This scaffold serves multiple functions. It provides structural support, creates channels for lymph flow, and offers surfaces where immune cells can attach and interact. Think of it as the infrastructure that allows all the biological activity to take place in an organized, efficient manner. One of the most fascinating aspects of lymph nodes is their ability to expand and contract based on demand. During an immune response, a lymph node can increase in size by 5 to 50 times its resting volume. This expansion accommodates the massive proliferation of immune cells needed to fight infections while maintaining the structural integrity necessary for continued function. The cellular composition of lymph nodes is incredibly diverse and dynamic. In addition to the resident B and T lymphocytes, nodes contain macrophages that engulf and digest pathogens and debris, dendritic cells that process and present antigens, plasma cells that produce antibodies, and various other specialized immune cells. The population of these cells changes constantly based on the threats encountered and the immune responses being mounted. Lymph nodes also serve as educational facilities for immune cells. Naive T and B lymphocytes circulate through nodes, where they encounter antigens and receive the signals necessary for their activation and differentiation into effector cells. It's like having training academies distributed throughout your body, where immune cells learn to recognize and respond to specific threats. The strategic placement of lymph nodes throughout your body reflects millions of years of evolutionary optimization. Cervical nodes in your neck monitor what enters through your mouth and nose. Axillary nodes in your armpits screen drainage from your arms and upper chest. Inguinal nodes in your groin filter lymph from your lower limbs and genital region. And deep nodes monitor internal organs. This regional specialization means that the pattern of lymph node enlargement can provide important diagnostic clues. Swollen cervical nodes might indicate a throat infection. Enlarged axillary nodes could suggest a breast infection or malignancy. And inguinal node enlargement might point to infections or problems in the lower extremities or genital area. The metabolism of lymph nodes is remarkably high, reflecting their intense activity. These structures consume oxygen and nutrients at rates comparable to actively contracting muscle, which makes sense given the constant cellular division, protein synthesis, and metabolic activity occurring within them. This high metabolic rate is why lymph nodes are often warm to the touch when they're actively fighting an infection. Lymph nodes also play a crucial role in maintaining immune memory. Long-lived memory B and T cells reside in lymph nodes, ready to mount rapid responses if previously encountered threats reappear. This is why vaccines work. They prime lymph nodes with memory cells that can quickly recognize and respond to specific pathogens without you having to experience the full disease. The blood supply to lymph nodes is as sophisticated as their lymphatic drainage. Each node receives arterial blood through hilar arteries and has an extensive capillary network that allows immune cells to move between the blood and lymphatic systems. This vascular system also supports the high metabolic demands of active immune responses. Perhaps most remarkably, lymph nodes can communicate with each other and with other parts of the immune system through chemical signals. They release cytokines and other molecular messengers that coordinate immune responses across multiple nodes and organs. It's like having a sophisticated communication network that allows different parts of your immune system to share intelligence and coordinate their activities. Understanding lymph node structure and function is crucial for recognizing when something is not working properly, and for appreciating the incredible sophistication of your immune system is frontline defenses. Hidden beneath your left rib cage, tucked away where most people never think about it, lies one of your body's most underappreciated organs: the spleen. This fist-sized powerhouse is simultaneously your body's blood filter, immune command center, and emergency blood bank, all rolled into one remarkable structure. If lymph nodes are the regional processing centers of your lymphatic system, the spleen is the central headquarters. The spleen is unique among lymphatic organs because it filters blood rather than lymph. Every minute, about 300 milliliters of blood, roughly equivalent to a standard coffee cup, flows through your spleen. Over the course of a day, your entire blood volume passes through the spleen multiple times, making it one of the most heavily perfused organs in your body relative to its size. Structurally, the spleen is divided into two functionally distinct regions that work together seamlessly: the red pulp and the white pulp. These aren't just anatomical curiosities. They represent two completely different but complementary processing systems operating within the same organ. The red pulp, which makes up about 75% of the spleen's volume, is essentially a sophisticated blood filtration system. It's called red pulp because it's packed with red blood cells, moving through a network of specialized channels called splenic sinusoids. These sinusoids are unlike any other blood vessels in your body. They have gaps between their endothelial cells that allow healthy, flexible red blood cells to squeeze through while trapping old, damaged, or abnormal cells. Think of the red pulp as quality control for your red blood cells. As red blood cells age over their 120-day lifespan, they become less flexible and more fragile. The spleen's filtration system is so sensitive that it can detect these subtle changes in cellular flexibility and remove aging cells before they cause problems. It's like having a microscopic quality inspector that can test millions of products per hour and remove any that do not meet specifications. But the spleen doesn't just throw away old red blood cells, it recycles them with remarkable efficiency. Specialized cells called macrophages engulf the removed red blood cells and break them down into their component parts. The iron is carefully extracted and returned to the bone marrow for making new red blood cells, while other components are processed and recycled or eliminated. This recycling system is so efficient that virtually no iron is wasted in the process. The white pulp represents the spleen's immune function and is strategically organized around the arteries that supply the organ. These areas are packed with lymphocytes and look remarkably similar to lymph nodes, complete with follicles containing B cells and regions rich in T cells. The white pulp serves as a surveillance system for blood-borne pathogens and foreign substances. What makes the spleen's immune function particularly important is its ability to respond to encapsulated bacteria, organisms like Streptococcus pneumonia and Haemophilus influenzae that are surrounded by protective capsules. These bacteria are particularly dangerous to people without functional spleens, which is why splenectomy patients require special vaccinations and monitoring. The spleen also serves as an emergency reservoir for blood cells. In times of stress, blood loss, or increased demand, the spleen can contract and release stored red blood cells and platelets into circulation. This contractile ability is more pronounced in some animals than humans, but it still provides a useful emergency reserve. The spleen can store up to 40% of your body's platelets, making it a crucial component of your blood clotting system. The arterial supply to the spleen is particularly fascinating from an engineering perspective. The splenic artery branches into progressively smaller vessels, eventually forming tiny arterioles that are surrounded by the white pulp lymphoid tissue. This arrangement ensures that all blood passing through the spleen is exposed to immune surveillance before entering the filtration zones of the red pulp. The venous drainage system is equally sophisticated. Blood that has been processed by the red pulp collects in splenic veins that eventually drain into the portal circulation, carrying processed blood and any absorbed substances to the liver for further processing. This arrangement creates a two-stage filtration system where blood is first processed by the spleen, then by the liver. During fetal development, the spleen serves an additional crucial function as a site of blood cell production, a process called extramedullary hematopoiesis. While this function normally ceases after birth, the spleen retains the ability to resume blood cell production if the bone marrow becomes damaged or overwhelmed. This backup capability can be life-saving in certain disease conditions. The spleen's size and activity vary significantly based on age, health status, and even factors like altitude and exercise. Athletes often have enlarged spleens due to increased blood processing demands, while people with certain infections or blood disorders may develop massive splenomegaly. Understanding splenic function helps explain why people without spleens, either due to surgical removal or congenital absence, have increased susceptibility to certain infections, particularly those caused by encapsulated bacteria. These individuals require lifelong antibiotic prophylaxis and special vaccinations to compensate for their lost splenic immune function. The spleen represents a perfect example of how the lymphatic system has evolved specialized organs to handle specific challenges. In this case, the need to monitor and filter the enormous volume of blood that circulates through our bodies every day. In the upper part of your chest, nestled between your heart and your sternum, lies what might be the most important organ you've probably never heard of: the thymus. This butterfly-shaped structure is the educational academy of your immune system, where naive T lymphocytes receive the training they need to become sophisticated defenders capable of distinguishing between friend and foe with remarkable precision. The thymus is unique among organs because it is most active during childhood and gradually shrinks throughout your lifetime, a process called involution. By the time you reach adulthood, your thymus has already done most of its crucial work, but its early contributions to your immune system last a lifetime. It's like a specialized school that operates primarily during your formative years, but whose education influences everything that follows. Structurally, the thymus consists of two lobes connected by connective tissue, giving it its characteristic butterfly appearance. Each lobe is divided into numerous lobules, and each lobule contains two distinct regions, the outer cortex and the inner medulla. This organization isn't just anatomical. It reflects the step-by-step educational process that T cells undergo during their maturation. The journey of T cell education in the thymus is one of the most remarkable processes in biology. Immature T cells, called thymocytes, arrive from the bone marrow as naive cells with randomly generated T cell receptors. These receptors are like molecular ID scanners that will eventually allow mature T cells to recognize specific threats, but initially, they're completely untested and potentially dangerous. The first phase of T cell education occurs in the cortex and is called positive selection. During this process, thymocytes are tested to see if their T cell receptors can recognize self-MHC molecules, the molecular ID cards that your cells use to identify themselves as belonging to your body. Thymocytes that can't recognize self-MHC are essentially useless and are eliminated through programmed cell death. Only about 5% of hemocytes pass this first test, but passing positive selection is just the beginning. The surviving thymocytes then face an even more stringent test called negative selection, which occurs primarily in the medulla. Here, they encounter a remarkable array of self-antigens, proteins from virtually every tissue in your body. This is possible because of specialized cells called medullary thymic epithelial cells that express a protein called AIRE, autoimmune regulator, which allows them to produce proteins normally found only in specific organs like the pancreas, thyroid, or prostate. During negative selection, any thymocyte that reacts strongly to these self-antigens is eliminated, This prevents autoimmune reactions, where your immune system attacks your own tissues. It's an incredibly stringent quality control process. Of the original population of thymocytes that entered the thymus, only about 2 to 5% survive both positive and negative selection to become mature T cells. This educational process explains why the thymus is so crucial during early life. The T cells that graduate from your childhood thymus form the foundation of your adaptive immune system for your entire lifetime. While some T cell production continues in the adult thymus, the vast majority of your T cell repertoire is established during childhood and adolescence. The thymus also produces several important hormones, including thymosin, thymulin, and thymopoietin. These hormones not only support T cell development within the thymus, but also influence immune function throughout the body. They help maintain the activity of mature T cells in peripheral tissues and may play roles in the aging of the immune system. The blood supply to the thymus is particularly rich during childhood, reflecting its high metabolic activity during peak T cell production. The organ receives blood from branches of the internal mammary and inferior thyroid arteries, and this vascular network supports the intense cellular activity occurring during T cell education. As you age, the thymus undergoes gradual involution, with thymic tissue being replaced by fat and connective tissue. This process begins around puberty and continues throughout life, which partially explains why older adults have decreased immune function and are more susceptible to infections and cancer. The thymic involution also contributes to the difficulty older adults have responding to new vaccines or infections they haven't encountered before. Interestingly, the thymus retains some capacity for regeneration throughout life. During severe illness or after chemotherapy, the thymus can temporarily increase its activity to help restore immune function. This regenerative capacity has made the thymus a target for research into therapies for immune deficiency and aging. The clinical importance of the thymus becomes apparent in conditions like DiGeorge syndrome, where children are born without a functional thymus. These children suffer from severe immunodeficiency because they can't produce mature T cells. Modern medicine has developed thymus transplantation techniques that can restore immune function in these patients, highlighting the organ's crucial role. Research into thymic function has also revealed connections between the thymus and other systems. The organ has direct neural connections to the brain and responds to stress hormones, which may explain why chronic stress can suppress immune function. The thymus also appears to play a role in the development of certain autoimmune diseases when its educational processes malfunction. Understanding the thymus helps explain why childhood vaccination is so important. The robust thymic function during early life allows for the development of strong, lasting immune memories. It also explains why maintaining thymic health through good nutrition, exercise, and stress management may be important for long-term immune function. The thymus represents evolution, is solution to one of immunology's greatest challenges: how to create an immune system powerful enough to defend against threats while preventing it from attacking the body it's supposed to protect. Your body faces a fascinating immunological challenge that most people never consider. How do you defend against threats that enter through your mucous membranes without launching inflammatory responses that would make normal functions impossible? The answer lies in a sophisticated network of specialized lymphoid tissues, collectively known as mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, or MALT. This system represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the problem of immunological surveillance at the body's most vulnerable entry points. MALT isn't a single organ, but rather a distributed network of lymphoid tissues strategically positioned at every major interface between your body and the outside world. These tissues must perform the remarkable balancing act of distinguishing between harmless substances like food and beneficial bacteria versus dangerous pathogens, all while maintaining the delicate mucous membrane surfaces necessary for normal physiological functions. The most familiar components of MALT are your tonsils, but these represent just the tip of the iceberg. The tonsillar ring, consisting of the palatine tonsils, adenoids, and lingual tonsils, forms a protective barrier around the entrance to your respiratory and digestive tracts. These structures are positioned like sentries at the gates of your body, sampling everything that enters through your mouth and nose. The palatine tonsils, the ones most people simply call tonsils, are located on either side of your throat and contain deep crypts lined with lymphoid tissue. These crypts increase the surface area available for antigen sampling and create specialized microenvironments where immune responses can be initiated. The adenoids, technically called the pharyngeal tonsils, sit at the back of your nasal cavity and perform similar functions for inhaled materials. But MALT extends far beyond the obvious tonsillar tissues. Your respiratory tract contains bronchus-associated lymphoid tissue, BALT, which includes both organized structures and diffuse collections of immune cells throughout the airways. BALT is particularly important because your lungs are constantly exposed to airborne particles, pollutants, and potential pathogens that bypass the upper respiratory defenses. The gastrointestinal tract contains the most extensive and sophisticated MALT system in your body, appropriately called gut-associated lymphoid tissue, GALT. This makes sense when you consider that your digestive system processes about 30 tons of food over a lifetime while hosting trillions of bacteria, most of which are beneficial, but some of which could be dangerous if they breach the intestinal barrier. Peyer's patches in your small intestine represent some of the most specialized MALT structures. These organized lymphoid follicles are strategically located in the ileum, where they can monitor the contents of your digestive tract and initiate immune responses when necessary. Peyer's patches contain specialized cells called M cells, microfold cells, that actively sample antigens from the intestinal contents and present them to underlying immune cells. The appendix, long dismissed as a vestigial organ, is now recognized as an important component of GALT. Rather than being useless, the appendix serves as a reservoir for beneficial bacteria and contains a high concentration of immune cells that help maintain the balance of your gut microbiome. It's like having a backup supply of beneficial bacteria that can repopulate your intestines after infections or antibiotic treatments. Throughout the intestinal tract, you'll also find isolated lymphoid follicles and diffuse collections of immune cells in the lamina propria, the tissue layer just beneath the intestinal epithelium. These dispersed immune cells provide continuous surveillance of the intestinal contents and can rapidly respond to threats that breach the epithelial barrier. The unique challenge faced by MALT is the need to maintain immune tolerance to harmless antigens while remaining ready to respond to genuine threats. This is particularly complex in the gut, where immune cells must tolerate food proteins and beneficial bacteria while remaining alert for pathogenic organisms. The failure of this tolerance mechanism can lead to food allergies, inflammatory bowel disease, and other autoimmune conditions. MALT achieves this balance through several sophisticated mechanisms. These tissues produce predominantly IgA antibodies, which are specially adapted for mucosal defense. Unlike other antibody types that trigger strong inflammatory responses, IgA provides protection while minimizing tissue damage. IgA antibodies are secreted across mucous membranes, where they can neutralize pathogens before they penetrate deeper into tissues. The cellular composition of MALT is also specialized for mucosal immunity. These tissues contain high concentrations of regulatory T cells, which help maintain immune tolerance, alongside effector cells that can respond to threats. Dendritic cells in MALT are particularly skilled at distinguishing between harmless and dangerous antigens, helping to shape appropriate immune responses. MALT also plays a crucial role in the development of systemic immunity. Many immune responses that begin in mucosal tissues spread throughout the body, and conversely, systemic immune responses often manifest in mucosal tissues. This interconnection explains why oral vaccines can provide systemic protection, and why gastrointestinal health affects overall immune function. The clinical importance of MALT becomes apparent in various disease conditions. Chronic inflammation of MALT structures can lead to conditions like chronic tonsillitis or inflammatory bowel disease. Conversely, immunodeficiencies often manifest as recurrent infections at mucosal surfaces. Understanding MALT function has also led to new therapeutic approaches, including mucosal vaccines and probiotics designed to support healthy immune function. MALT represents a perfect example of how the lymphatic system has evolved specialized solutions for specific challenges, creating sophisticated immune surveillance networks that protect our most vulnerable interfaces with the environment. To truly understand the lymphatic system, we need to explore its most fundamental component, lymph itself. This remarkable fluid is far more than just clear blood or tissue water. Lymph is a dynamic, ever-changing substance that serves as a transport medium, communication system, and waste removal service all in one. Understanding how lymph forms and what it contains reveals the elegant chemistry that keeps your body functioning at the cellular level. Lymph formation begins with a process that's happening in your tissues right now as you read this. Your blood capillaries are constantly leaking small amounts of plasma into the surrounding tissues, about 20 liters per day in a typical adult. This isn't a design flaw. It's an essential feature that allows nutrients, oxygen, and signaling molecules to reach your cells while enabling waste products to be removed. This leaked plasma becomes what we call interstitial fluid, the bath of liquid that surrounds every cell in your body. But interstitial fluid doesn't just sit there stagnantly. It's constantly moving, carrying dissolved substances, proteins, and cellular debris. When this interstitial fluid enters the initial lymphatics through those ingenious pressure-sensitive openings we discussed earlier, it officially becomes lymph. The composition of lymph varies dramatically depending on where it originates, what time of day it is, what you've eaten, and what activities you've been doing. This variability isn't random. It reflects the lymphatic system's role as a responsive, adaptive transport network that adjusts to your body's changing needs. In most parts of your body, lymph appears as a clear to slightly yellowish fluid that's remarkably similar to blood plasma, but with some crucial differences. The protein concentration in lymph is typically about half that of blood plasma, though this varies significantly by location. Lymph from your liver, for instance, has a much higher protein concentration than lymph from your limbs because the liver produces many of the proteins found in blood. The cellular content of lymph is one of its most fascinating aspects. Unlike blood, which has a relatively consistent cellular composition, lymph contains varying numbers and types of cells depending on its origin and the current state of your immune system. Lymphocytes are the most numerous cells in lymph, which makes sense given the lymphatic system's immune functions. These cells use the lymphatic system as a highway to patrol your body, constantly circulating between tissues, lymph nodes, and blood. After a fatty meal, lymph from your intestines undergoes a dramatic transformation. The normally clear fluid becomes milky white due to the presence of tiny fat particles called chylomicrons. This fat-rich lymph is called chyle, and it represents one of the most remarkable examples of how the lymphatic system adapts to handle different types of cargo. Chylomicrons are too large to enter blood capillaries directly, so they must take the lymphatic route to reach your bloodstream. The formation of chyle involves sophisticated packaging machinery in your intestinal cells. Dietary fats are broken down into smaller components, then reassembled into chylomicrons, complex particles that contain not just fats, but also fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. These particles are then secreted into the intestinal lymphatics, where they join the lymphatic circulation and eventually reach your bloodstream via the thoracic duct. The protein composition of lymph tells a fascinating story about tissue metabolism and immune activity. Albumin, the most abundant protein in lymph, helps maintain fluid balance and serves as a transport protein for various substances. Immunoglobulins, particularly IgG antibodies, circulate in lymph as part of immune surveillance. The presence of tissue-specific proteins in lymph can even provide diagnostic information about organ function and disease states. Lymph also contains various dissolved substances that reflect metabolic activity in the tissues it drains. Glucose levels in lymph generally mirror blood glucose, while lactate concentrations can indicate tissue oxygen availability. Electrolyte concentrations in lymph are similar to those in blood plasma, helping maintain the chemical environment necessary for cellular function. One of the most important components of lymph that's often overlooked is its complement of enzymes and signaling molecules. These include inflammatory mediators, growth factors, and cytokines that coordinate immune responses and tissue repair processes. The lymphatic system essentially serves as a communication network, carrying chemical messages between different parts of your body. The pH and osmolarity of lymph are carefully regulated to maintain the optimal environment for cellular function. This regulation involves complex interactions between the lymphatic vessels, surrounding tissues, and ultimately the kidneys and lungs, which help maintain overall body fluid balance. Lymph flow rates vary dramatically throughout your body and throughout the day. At rest, your body produces about 2 to 4 liters of lymph per day, but this can increase dramatically during exercise, inflammation, or after meals. The lymphatic system's ability to handle these fluctuations in volume and composition is crucial for maintaining tissue health. Understanding lymph composition has important clinical implications. Changes in lymph protein content can indicate inflammatory conditions or lymphatic dysfunction. The presence of unusual cells in lymph can provide diagnostic information about infections or malignancies. Even the color and clarity of lymph can provide valuable clinical information. The dynamic nature of lymph formation and composition reflects the lymphatic system's role as one of your body's most responsive and adaptive networks, constantly adjusting to meet your physiological needs while maintaining the delicate balance necessary for optimal health. Understanding how lymph moves through your body is like unraveling one of nature's most ingenious engineering puzzles. Unlike your circulatory system, which relies on the powerful central pump of your heart, the lymphatic system must move fluid through an extensive network using only localized pumping mechanisms, external pressures, and clever engineering. It's a testament to evolutionary problem solving that this system works as efficiently as it does. The driving forces behind lymphatic flow are diverse and beautifully coordinated. The primary mechanism is the intrinsic contractility of lymphatic vessels themselves. Remember those lymphangions we discussed, the chambers between valves in collecting lymphatics. Each one functions as a miniature heart, contracting rhythmically to propel lymph forward. These contractions occur at a frequency of about 6 to 20 beats per minute, depending on various factors, including lymph volume, tissue pressure, and neural influences. What makes this intrinsic pumping so remarkable is its responsiveness to demand. When lymph volume increases, the vessel walls stretch, which triggers stronger and more frequent contractions. It's a beautiful example of biological feedback control. The system automatically adjusts its pumping rate based on how much work needs to be done. During exercise or inflammation, when lymph production increases, the lymphatic vessels respond by pumping harder and faster. But the lymphatic vessels don't work alone. External compression provides crucial assistance to lymphatic flow, particularly in the extremities where lymph must travel against gravity. Every time you move, your muscles contract and compress the lymphatic vessels running through them. The one-way valves ensure that this compression propels lymph forward rather than backward. This is why movement is so crucial for lymphatic health, and why prolonged immobility can lead to lymphatic stagnation. Your respiratory system also plays a vital role in lymphatic circulation. Each breath you take creates pressure changes in your thoracic cavity that help draw lymph upward through the thoracic duct. During inspiration, the expansion of your chest creates negative pressure that literally sucks lymph toward your heart. This respiratory pump is particularly important for lymph flow from your lower body, where the lymphatic system must work against gravity. The arterial pulsations from nearby blood vessels provide another source of external compression that assists lymphatic flow. This arterial massage is particularly effective in areas where lymphatic vessels and arteries run in close proximity. It's like having a continuous, gentle massage that helps keep lymph moving throughout your cardiovascular system's regular pumping cycle. Lymphatic flow patterns throughout your body follow predictable pathways that reflect both anatomy and physics. Lymph from your lower extremities faces the greatest challenge, having to travel upward against gravity through the lumbar trunks and thoracic duct. The lymphatic vessels in your legs have particularly robust smooth muscle layers and closely spaced valves to handle this challenge. The superficial and deep lymphatic systems in your limbs work together in a coordinated fashion. The superficial system drains skin and subcutaneous tissues, while the deep system drains muscles, bones, and joints. These systems are connected by perforating vessels that allow lymph to move between them, optimizing drainage patterns based on activity and positioning. Lymphatic flow rates vary dramatically depending on tissue type, activity level, and physiological conditions. At rest, total lymph flow is approximately 2 to 4 liters per day, but this can increase significantly during exercise, fever, or inflammation. The intestinal lymphatics show particularly dramatic variations, with chyle flow increasing by 10 to 20 times after a fatty meal. The velocity of lymph flow is much slower than blood flow, typically measured in millimeters per minute rather than centimeters per second. This slow flow is actually advantageous because it allows time for the various functions of the lymphatic system, immune surveillance, protein processing and waste removal to occur effectively. Temperature affects lymphatic flow in interesting ways. Cold temperatures decrease the contractility of lymphatic smooth muscle, which is why cold therapy can help reduce lymphatic drainage and swelling in acute injuries. Conversely, heat increases lymphatic activity, which is one reason why warm compresses and saunas can help with lymphatic drainage. The nervous system modulates lymphatic flow through both sympathetic and parasympathetic influences. Sympathetic stimulation generally increases lymphatic pumping, which makes sense given that this system is activated during stress or exercise when enhanced lymphatic drainage would be beneficial. Certain medications that affect the nervous system can also influence lymphatic function. Hormonal influences on lymphatic flow are an area of active research. Estrogen, for example, appears to affect lymphatic vessel development and function, which may explain why some women experience changes in lymphatic-related symptoms during hormonal fluctuations. Growth hormone and thyroid hormones also appear to influence lymphatic function. Understanding lymphatic flow dynamics has important clinical implications. Conditions that impair lymphatic pumping, such as aging, certain medications, or genetic disorders, can lead to lymphedema. Conversely, therapies that enhance lymphatic flow, such as manual lymphatic drainage massage or compression therapy, can help manage various conditions. The field of lymphatic flow research is rapidly advancing, with new imaging techniques allowing scientists to visualize lymphatic flow in real time. This research is revealing the incredible sophistication of lymphatic circulation and opening new possibilities for therapeutic interventions. The elegant coordination of all these flow mechanisms ensures that lymph continues its vital circulation throughout your body, maintaining the fluid balance and immune surveillance that keep you healthy. If the lymphatic system were a country, its immune functions would represent its Department of Defense, intelligence agency, and emergency response system, all rolled into one incredibly sophisticated operation. Every day, your lymphatic system processes millions of potential threats, coordinates complex defensive responses, and maintains detailed records of every enemy it encounters. Understanding these immune functions reveals why the lymphatic system is absolutely crucial for survival in a world filled with pathogens. The immune surveillance function of the lymphatic system begins at the microscopic level with those initial lymphatics we discussed earlier. Their permeable nature isn't an accident. It is a deliberate design feature that allows potential threats to enter the lymphatic system where they can be properly assessed and addressed. When bacteria, viruses, fungi, or even cancer cells enter your tissues, they're quickly swept up into the lymphatic circulation along with the tissue fluid. This might seem counterintuitive. Why would your body deliberately allow threats into its circulation? The answer lies in the concept of controlled exposure. By channeling potential threats through lymph nodes, your immune system can examine them in specialized environments designed for immune responses, while preventing them from spreading uncontrolled throughout your body. Lymph nodes serve as sophisticated biological laboratories where antigens, foreign substances that trigger immune responses, are processed and analyzed. When lymph-carrying potential threats enters a lymph node, it encounters a gauntlet of immune cells ready to spring into action. Macrophages, the cellular garbage collectors of the immune system, engulf and digest pathogens while presenting pieces of them to other immune cells for analysis. The antigen presentation process in lymph nodes is like a detailed briefing session, where intelligence is shared among different military units. Dendritic cells, the premier antigen-presenting cells, capture antigens and present them to naive T lymphocytes in a process that determines whether and how strongly the immune system will respond. These interactions occur in specialized regions of lymph nodes designed to facilitate cellular communication and coordination. B lymphocytes in lymph nodes serve as the antibody factories of the immune system. When they encounter their specific antigens, they undergo rapid proliferation and differentiation into plasma cells, capable of producing thousands of antibodies per second. This process occurs primarily in the germinal centers of lymphoid follicles, where B cells undergo intense selection pressure to produce increasingly effective antibodies. The lymphatic system's role in generating immune memory is perhaps its most remarkable function. After successfully dealing with a threat, specialized memory B and T cells take up residence in lymph nodes and other lymphoid tissues, where they can persist for years, or even decades. These memory cells provide the basis for vaccine effectiveness and explain why you typically don't get the same infection twice. T lymphocyte activation and differentiation in lymph nodes determines the type and intensity of immune responses. Helper T cells coordinate immune responses by releasing chemical signals called cytokines, while cytotoxic T cells directly attack infected or abnormal cells. Regulatory T cells ensure that immune responses don't become excessive and cause autoimmune damage. The trafficking patterns of immune cells through the lymphatic system are precisely orchestrated through chemical signals and specialized adhesion molecules. Immune cells continuously circulate between blood, tissues, and lymphoid organs, constantly patrolling for threats and sharing information. This circulation pattern ensures that immune responses initiated in one location can quickly spread throughout the body when necessary. The lymphatic system also plays a crucial role in peripheral tolerance, the process by which the immune system learns not to attack harmless substances like food proteins or beneficial bacteria. This is particularly important in mucosa-associated lymphoid tissues, where immune cells must distinguish between harmless environmental antigens and genuine threats. Inflammatory responses coordinated by the lymphatic system involve complex cascades of cellular and molecular events. When tissues are damaged or infected, inflammatory mediators increase local lymphatic drainage, bringing more immune cells to the affected area, while removing inflammatory debris. The characteristic swelling of inflamed lymph nodes reflects their increased activity in processing inflammatory lymph. The complement system, a group of proteins that enhance immune responses, works closely with lymphatic function. Complement proteins can be activated by antibodies bound to antigens, creating powerful inflammatory cascades that help eliminate threats. The products of complement activation are cleared through lymphatic drainage, preventing them from causing excessive tissue damage. Immunoglobulin production and secretion by the lymphatic system provides both local and systemic protection. Different types of antibodies serve different functions. IgG provides systemic immunity, IgA protects mucosal surfaces, IgM provides early immune responses, and IgE mediates allergic reactions. The class switching that determines which type of antibody is produced occurs in lymphoid tissues under the influence of various cytokines. The lymphatic system's immune functions are intimately connected to its role in maintaining tissue homeostasis. By removing inflammatory debris, excess proteins, and cellular waste products, the lymphatic system helps resolve inflammatory responses and restore normal tissue function. This cleanup function is essential for preventing chronic inflammation and maintaining healthy tissues. Clinical disorders of lymphatic immune function can have devastating consequences. Primary immunodeficiencies affecting lymphoid organs can leave patients vulnerable to recurrent infections, while autoimmune diseases can result from dysfunction in immune tolerance mechanisms. Understanding these connections has led to new therapeutic approaches for various immune-related disorders. The sophistication of lymphatic immune functions represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, creating a system capable of defending against an almost infinite variety of threats while maintaining the delicate balance necessary for health. Your body is essentially a complex aquatic environment, where every cell depends on precisely maintained fluid conditions for survival. The lymphatic system serves as the master regulator of this internal ocean, maintaining fluid balance with a precision that would impress the most sophisticated engineering systems. Understanding this function reveals why lymphatic dysfunction can have such profound effects on your health and well-being. At any given moment, your body contains about 42 liters of fluid distributed between different compartments. About 28 liters exist inside your cells as intracellular fluid, while 14 liters circulate outside cells as extracellular fluid. This extracellular fluid is further divided into blood plasma, about 3 liters, and interstitial fluid, about 11 liters, that bathes your tissues. The lymphatic system's job is to maintain the delicate balance between these compartments. The fundamental challenge of fluid balance stems from the fact that your blood capillaries are constantly leaking. This is not a design flaw. It's an essential feature that allows nutrients to reach your cells and waste products to be removed. However, if this leaked fluid weren't constantly removed, you would literally drown in your own body fluids. The lymphatic system prevents this catastrophe by continuously draining excess interstitial fluid and returning it to your bloodstream. The forces governing fluid movement between your blood, tissues, and lymphatic system follow principles described by Ernest Starling over a century ago. The Starling forces include hydrostatic pressure, which pushes fluid out of capillaries, oncotic pressure, which pulls fluid back into capillaries due to proteins, and the permeability characteristics of the capillary walls. Under normal conditions, these forces result in a net filtration of fluid from blood into tissues at the arterial end of capillaries and partial reabsorption at the venous end. However, this reabsorption is never complete. About 10% of the filtered fluid, along with proteins and other large molecules that can't return through capillary walls, must be removed by the lymphatic system. This seemingly small percentage represents an enormous volume, approximately 2 to 4 liters per day in a healthy adult. Without lymphatic drainage, this excess fluid would accumulate in your tissues, causing massive swelling and eventual death. The protein concentration in interstitial fluid is normally kept very low, around 0.5 to 1.5 grams per deciliter, compared to 7 grams per deciliter in blood plasma. This concentration gradient is maintained by lymphatic drainage, which continuously removes proteins that leak from blood vessels. If lymphatic drainage becomes impaired, protein concentration in interstitial fluid increases, creating an osmotic force that draws even more fluid into the tissues. This protein accumulation is what makes lymphedema so different from other forms of swelling. In venous edema, or heart failure, the swelling is primarily due to excess salt and water that can be managed with diuretics. But lymphedema involves protein-rich fluid that can be removed by medications. It requires restoration of lymphatic function or compensation through other mechanisms. The lymphatic system's role in fluid balance extends beyond simple drainage. It also helps regulate the composition of interstitial fluid, maintaining optimal conditions for cellular function. The continuous circulation of lymph helps distribute nutrients, hormones, and signaling molecules throughout your tissues, while removing metabolic waste products that might otherwise accumulate. Different parts of your body have varying lymphatic drainage capacities based on their functional needs. Your brain, for instance, was long thought to lack lymphatic drainage, but recent discoveries have revealed a specialized system of lymphatic vessels that drain cerebrospinal fluid and interstitial fluid from brain tissues. This lymphatic system is particularly active during sleep, which may explain why sleep is so crucial for brain health and cognitive function. The intestinal lymphatics face unique challenges in fluid balance because they must handle not only tissue fluid, but also the enormous volumes of digestive secretions. Your digestive system produces about 7 to 10 liters of secretions daily, including saliva, gastric juice, bile, pancreatic juice, and intestinal secretions. Most of this fluid is reabsorbed, but the lymphatic system plays a crucial role in maintaining the fluid balance in intestinal tissues. Hormonal regulation of fluid balance involves complex interactions with the lymphatic system. Antidiuretic hormone, aldosterone, and atrial natriuretic peptide all influence fluid distribution between different body compartments, and their effects are mediated partly through changes in lymphatic function. During pregnancy, hormonal changes affect lymphatic function, which explains why many pregnant women experience swelling in their extremities. Exercise has profound effects on lymphatic fluid balance. During physical activity, increased muscle contractions enhance lymphatic pumping, while increased capillary filtration due to higher blood pressure and vasodilation increases the lymphatic workload. Well-trained athletes develop enhanced lymphatic function that helps them maintain better fluid balance during exercise and recover more quickly afterward. Age-related changes in lymphatic function contribute to the increased tendency for swelling in older adults. As lymphatic vessels age, their contractile function decreases, and their valve competency may be compromised. This reduced efficiency in lymphatic drainage can lead to chronic mild edema and may contribute to the increased infection risk seen in elderly individuals. The lymphatic system also plays a role in regulating blood volume and blood pressure through its effects on fluid balance. When blood volume decreases due to dehydration or blood loss, enhanced lymphatic return helps maintain circulatory volume. Conversely, when blood volume is excessive, the lymphatic system can help redistribute fluid to reduce circulatory overload. Understanding lymphatic fluid balance has important implications for clinical practice. Conditions that impair lymphatic drainage, such as cancer treatments that damage lymph nodes, infections that block lymphatic vessels, or genetic disorders affecting lymphatic development, can all lead to significant fluid balance problems. Recognition of these connections has led to new therapeutic approaches focusing on supporting or restoring lymphatic function. The precision with which the lymphatic system maintains fluid balance is truly remarkable. Despite constant changes in activity level, diet, posture, and environmental conditions, your lymphatic system continuously adjusts to maintain optimal tissue fluid conditions. This dynamic regulation is essential for cellular health and represents one of the most underappreciated aspects of human physiology. Then every time you eat a meal containing fats, whether it's avocado toast, a piece of salmon, or even a simple salad with olive oil dressing, you're witnessing one of the most remarkable transport operations in human biology. Unlike other nutrients that go directly from your intestines to your bloodstream, dietary fats take a scenic route through your lymphatic system, transforming the normally clear lymph into a milky white fluid called chyle. This process reveals yet another crucial function of your lymphatic system that most people know nothing about. The story begins in your small intestine, where dietary fats undergo a complex process of digestion and absorption. Fats are large, hydrophobic molecules that can't simply dissolve in the watery environment of your digestive tract. They require special handling from the moment they enter your mouth until they reach your bloodstream. The lymphatic system provides the specialized transport mechanism that makes fat absorption possible. When you consume fats, they're first emulsified by bile salts from your gallbladder, creating tiny droplets that increase the surface area available for digestion. Pancreatic enzymes called lipases break down these fats into smaller components, fatty acids and monoglycerides, that can be absorbed by your intestinal cells. But here's where it gets interesting. These absorbed fat components don't go directly into your blood like other nutrients do. Inside your intestinal epithelial cells, something remarkable happens. The absorbed fatty acids and monoglycerides are reassembled into triglycerides and packaged into special transport particles called chylomicrons. Think of chylomicrons as sophisticated molecular trucks designed specifically for fat transport. They're large, complex particles consisting of triglycerides surrounded by proteins, phospholipids, and cholesterol that make them compatible with aqueous environments. Chylomicrons are too large to enter the blood capillaries directly. While a glucose molecule can easily slip between the tight junctions of capillary endothelial cells, chylomicrons are enormous by comparison, about 1,000 times larger than glucose molecules. This size difference explains why chylomicrons must enter the lymphatic system through the more permeable initial lymphatics in the intestinal wall. The specialized initial lymphatics in your intestinal villi are called lacteals, and they're perfectly designed for fat absorption. Unlike other initial lymphatics, lacteals have even larger openings between their endothelial cells, allowing the bulky chylomicrons to enter easily. The name lacteal comes from the Latin word for milk, reflecting the milky appearance that chyle gives to these vessels after a fatty meal. Once chylomicrons enter the lacteals, they join the lymphatic circulation and travel through the mesenteric lymph nodes, where they're inspected by immune cells for any potential threats that might have been absorbed along with the fats. This immune surveillance is crucial because the fat absorption process could potentially allow harmful substances to enter your circulation. From the mesenteric lymph nodes, chyle travels through the intestinal lymphatic trunk to the cisterna chyli, then up through the thoracic duct to finally enter your bloodstream at the left subclavian vein. This journey takes several hours, which explains why blood fat levels don't peak until 2 to 4 hours after eating a fatty meal. It's a much longer and more complex route than the one taken by carbohydrates and proteins, which enter the portal circulation and reach the liver within minutes. The composition of chyle is fascinating and varies dramatically based on what you've eaten. After a typical mixed meal, chyle can contain up to 95% fat by dry weight. But chylomicrons aren't just fat transport vehicles. They also carry fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, which explains why these vitamins must be consumed with fats for optimal absorption. People with severe fat malabsorption can develop deficiencies in these vitamins despite adequate dietary intake. The lymphatic transport of fats serves several important functions beyond simple absorption. The slow release of fats into the bloodstream helps prevent overwhelming your metabolic systems with sudden large doses of lipids. The passage through lymph nodes allows immune surveillance of absorbed fats and associated substances. The lymphatic route also bypasses the liver initially, allowing fats to be distributed throughout your body before being processed by hepatic enzymes. Different types of fats follow slightly different absorption pathways. Medium-chain fatty acids, found in coconut oil and some other sources, are small enough to be absorbed directly into the portal circulation, bypassing the lymphatic system entirely. This is why medium-chain triglycerides are sometimes used in medical nutrition for patients with lymphatic disorders or fat malabsorption. The clinical significance of lymphatic fat transport becomes apparent in various disease conditions. Lymphatic obstruction can lead to fat malabsorption and steatorrhea, fatty stools. Chylous ascites, where chyle leaks into the abdominal cavity, can occur after surgical damage to lymphatic vessels. Understanding these connections has led to specialized dietary treatments for various lymphatic disorders. Interestingly, the lymphatic fat transport system can be overwhelmed by extremely high-fat meals. When chylomicron production exceeds the lymphatic system's transport capacity, some fats may be stored temporarily in intestinal cells or transported through alternative pathways. This explains why extremely fatty meals can sometimes cause digestive discomfort. The evolution of lymphatic fat transport represents an elegant solution to the challenge of absorbing hydrophobic nutrients in an aqueous environment. This system allows us to obtain essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins while providing controlled, gradual delivery to our metabolic systems. Without this lymphatic pathway, our ability to absorb and utilize dietary fats would be severely compromised, affecting everything from energy metabolism to cellular membrane function. When the lymphatic system malfunctions, the consequences can be both visible and devastating. Unlike other body systems whose failures might remain hidden until they're severe, lymphatic disorders often announce themselves through swelling, infections, and other obvious symptoms that significantly impact quality of life. Understanding these disorders reveals just how crucial normal lymphatic function is for health and highlights the remarkable resilience of this system under normal circumstances. Lymphedema represents the most common and recognizable lymphatic disorder, affecting millions of people worldwide. This condition occurs when lymphatic drainage becomes inadequate, leading to the accumulation of protein-rich fluid in tissues. Unlike other forms of swelling that might come and go, lymphedema typically becomes progressively worse over time if left untreated, causing not just cosmetic concerns, but significant functional limitations and increased infection risk. Primary lymphedema results from developmental abnormalities in the lymphatic system itself. These can range from complete absence of lymphatic vessels in certain areas to malformed vessels that do not function properly. Milroy disease, for instance, is a genetic condition where mutations affect lymphatic vessel development, typically causing swelling that's present from birth or early childhood. The hereditary nature of these conditions has revealed important genes involved in lymphatic development and function. Secondary lymphedema is far more common and results from damage to previously normal lymphatic structures. Cancer treatments are the leading cause in developed countries, particularly when lymph nodes are surgically removed or damaged by radiation therapy. Breast cancer treatment, which often involves removal of axillary lymph nodes, can lead to arm lymphedema in 15 to 25% of patients. The risk persists for life, which means cancer survivors must remain vigilant about protecting their lymphatic system. The pathophysiology of lymphedema involves a complex cascade of events that begins with impaired lymphatic drainage, but extends far beyond simple fluid accumulation. When lymph stagnates, its high protein content creates osmotic forces that draw even more fluid into the tissues. Inflammatory mediators accumulate, triggering chronic inflammation that further impairs lymphatic function. Over time, the affected tissues undergo fibrosis and fat deposition, creating the characteristic hard, non-pitting swelling of advanced lymphedema. Infections represent another major category of lymphatic disorders, often both causing and resulting from lymphatic dysfunction. Cellulitis, a bacterial infection of soft tissues, can damage lymphatic vessels and impair drainage, creating a vicious cycle where poor lymphatic function predisposes to more infections. Recurrent cellulitis is a hallmark of lymphatic dysfunction, and can significantly accelerate the progression of lymphedema. Filariasis, caused by parasitic worms that block lymphatic vessels, affects over 120 million people worldwide and represents one of the most dramatic examples of lymphatic pathology. The parasites take up residence in lymphatic vessels, causing massive swelling that can progress to elephantiasis, extreme enlargement of affected body parts. This condition illustrates how lymphatic obstruction can lead to profound anatomical changes and disability. Lymphangitis, inflammation of lymphatic vessels themselves, presents as painful red, streaking along the course of lymphatic vessels. This condition often results from bacterial infections and can be life-threatening if the infection spreads to the bloodstream. The characteristic red streaks help healthcare providers recognize this potentially serious condition and initiate appropriate antibiotic treatment. Malformations of lymphatic vessels can cause various clinical syndromes. Lymphangiomas are benign growths of lymphatic vessels that can occur anywhere in the body, but are most common in the head and neck region. While benign, these lesions can cause significant problems due to their size and location, sometimes requiring complex surgical or medical management. Chylous effusions occur when lymphatic vessels leak their contents into body cavities. Chylothorax involves chyla leaking into the chest cavity, while chylous ascites involves leakage into the abdominal cavity. These conditions can result from trauma, surgery, cancer, or congenital abnormalities, and often require specialized treatment to identify and repair the lymphatic leak. The immune dysfunction associated with lymphatic disorders extends beyond increased infection risk. Impaired lymphatic drainage can lead to accumulation of inflammatory mediators and cellular debris, creating chronic inflammatory states that affect tissue function. Some research suggests that lymphatic dysfunction may contribute to autoimmune diseases and chronic inflammatory conditions. Cancer has a complex relationship with the lymphatic system. Lymphatic vessels provide a pathway for cancer cells to spread from primary tumors to distant sites, making lymph node status crucial for cancer staging and treatment planning. Conversely, cancer treatments often damage the lymphatic system, creating long-term complications for survivors. Lipedema, often confused with lymphedema, is a disorder of fat distribution that primarily affects women and can be associated with secondary lymphatic dysfunction. While primarily a disorder of fat tissue, lipedema can progress to involve the lymphatic system, creating a combined condition called lipolymphedema that's particularly challenging to manage. The psychological impact of lymphatic disorders should not be underestimated. The visible swelling, functional limitations, and chronic nature of these conditions can significantly affect quality of life, body image, and mental health. Many patients report feeling isolated and misunderstood, particularly given the general lack of awareness about lymphatic disorders. Recent advances in understanding lymphatic pathophysiology have opened new therapeutic avenues. Researchers are developing medications that can stimulate lymphatic vessel growth, improve lymphatic pumping, or reduce the inflammatory cascades that worsen lymphatic dysfunction. Gene therapy approaches are being explored for inherited lymphatic disorders, while new surgical techniques are showing promise for treating severe lymphedema. Understanding lymphatic disorders emphasizes the importance of protecting this vulnerable system and recognizing early signs of dysfunction. It also highlights the need for continued research into this often overlooked aspect of human physiology and the development of better treatments for the millions of people affected by lymphatic diseases. Assessing lymphatic function presents unique challenges that have puzzled healthcare providers for generations. Unlike the heart, which announces its problems with easily measured changes in pulse and blood pressure, or the kidneys, which reveal dysfunction through blood and urine tests, the lymphatic system operates silently in the background until problems become severe. Developing reliable methods to evaluate lymphatic function has become increasingly important as our understanding of lymphatic disorders grows and new treatments become available. The clinical evaluation of lymphatic function begins with careful observation and physical examination. The trained eye can often detect subtle signs of lymphatic dysfunction long before patients notice problems themselves. Early lymphedema may present as a feeling of heaviness or tightness in an extremity, particularly at the end of the day or after prolonged activity. The affected limb may feel different to the patient, even when swelling isn't yet visible to others. Physical examination techniques for lymphatic assessment require specific skills and knowledge. The stemmer sign, the inability to pinch and lift a fold of skin at the base of the second toe or finger, is a classic indicator of lymphedema in the extremities. This sign reflects the tissue changes that occur when protein-rich lymph accumulates and causes fibrosis. Pitting edema, where pressure leaves an indentation in swollen tissue, is typically absent in lymphedema, but present in other forms of swelling, helping differentiate lymphatic from venous or cardiac causes. Measuring limb circumferences at standardized points provides objective documentation of swelling and allows monitoring of progression or response to treatment. These measurements must be performed carefully, using consistent landmarks and techniques to ensure accuracy. A difference of 2 centimeters or more between limbs at the same measurement point is generally considered significant, though smaller differences can be meaningful in certain contexts. Advanced imaging techniques have revolutionized lymphatic assessment, allowing visualization of lymphatic vessels and flow patterns that were previously impossible to see. Lymphoscintigraphy remains the gold standard for functional lymphatic imaging. This nuclear medicine study involves injecting a small amount of radioactively labeled protein, or colloid, into the tissue, then tracking its movement through the lymphatic system using specialized cameras. Lymphoscintigraphy can reveal delayed uptake of tracer from injection sites, slow transport through lymphatic vessels, abnormal flow patterns, and reduced uptake in lymph nodes. The technique can distinguish between normal lymphatic function, early dysfunction, and severe impairment. It can also identify alternative drainage pathways that develop when normal routes are blocked, providing valuable information for treatment planning. More recent imaging advances include MR lymphangiography, which uses magnetic resonance imaging to visualize lymphatic vessels and flow. This technique doesn't require radioactive tracers and can provide excellent anatomical detail of lymphatic structures. CT lymphangiography involves injecting contrast material and using computed tomography to track lymphatic flow, particularly useful for evaluating central lymphatic vessels like the thoracic duct. Near-infrared fluorescence lymphatic imaging represents an exciting new frontier in lymphatic assessment. This technique involves injecting fluorescent dyes that can be visualized in real time using specialized cameras. The method allows dynamic assessment of lymphatic function and can reveal subtle abnormalities in flow patterns that might be missed by other techniques. Biomarker research is actively investigating blood and tissue markers that might reflect lymphatic function. Certain proteins found in lymph can sometimes be detected in blood or tissue samples, potentially providing less invasive ways to assess lymphatic function. However, no reliable biomarkers are currently available for routine clinical use. Functional assessment of lymphatic pumping is an emerging area of research. Techniques that can measure the intrinsic contractility of lymphatic vessels could provide valuable information about the mechanisms underlying lymphatic dysfunction. Some research centers are developing ultrasound-based methods to visualize lymphatic vessel contractions, though these remain experimental. The assessment of lymphatic immune function requires different approaches than evaluation of fluid transport. This might involve measuring immune cell populations in lymph nodes, assessing antibody production, or evaluating responses to vaccines or other immune challenges. These assessments are typically performed in specialized centers and are not part of routine lymphatic evaluation. Clinical assessment must also consider the impact of lymphatic disorders on quality of life and functional capacity. Standardized questionnaires can measure how lymphatic problems affect daily activities, work capacity, and psychological well-being. These patient-reported outcomes are increasingly recognized as important measures of treatment success beyond just objective measurements of swelling. The timing of lymphatic assessment is crucial for many conditions. In cancer patients, baseline measurements before treatment can help identify those at risk for developing lymphedema and detect early changes before they become severe. Regular monitoring during follow-up can catch problems early when interventions are most effective. Differential diagnosis is a critical aspect of lymphatic assessment. Many conditions can cause swelling or other symptoms that might be confused with lymphatic disorders. Venous insufficiency, heart failure, kidney disease, liver disease, and various inflammatory conditions can all present with swelling. Distinguishing lymphatic causes from these other conditions requires careful clinical evaluation and often specialized testing. The interpretation of lymphatic assessment results requires expertise and experience. Subtle abnormalities might be significant in some contexts, but normal variants in others. The relationship between imaging findings and clinical symptoms isn't always straightforward, and treatment decisions must consider the full clinical picture, rather than relying solely on test results. As our understanding of lymphatic function continues to evolve and new assessment techniques become available, the ability to evaluate this important system will undoubtedly improve, leading to earlier diagnosis and better outcomes for patients with lymphatic disorders. The treatment of lymphatic disorders has evolved dramatically over the past few decades, transforming from a field with limited options to one offering hope and genuine improvement for millions of patients. Understanding current treatment approaches reveals both the complexity of lymphatic dysfunction and the ingenuity of medical professionals who have developed creative solutions for managing these challenging conditions. Conservative management forms the foundation of lymphatic disorder treatment, particularly for lymphedema. These approaches focus on supporting the body's remaining lymphatic function while preventing progression and complications. The cornerstone of conservative treatment is complete decongestive therapy, CDT, a comprehensive approach that combines multiple techniques to optimize lymphatic drainage and maintain improvements. Manual lymphatic drainage, MLD, represents one of the most specialized and effective conservative treatments. This isn't the deep tissue massage you might receive at a spa. It's a precise, gentle technique that requires specialized training and certification. MLD uses light pressure and specific hand movements to stimulate lymphatic flow, encourage drainage through alternative pathways, and help break up protein deposits in tissues. The technique works by stimulating the intrinsic pumping mechanisms of lymphatic vessels while directing flow toward functioning drainage routes. Therapists must understand lymphatic anatomy and drainage patterns to effectively redirect lymph around blocked or damaged areas. The pressure used is remarkably light, barely more than the weight of the hands themselves, because excessive pressure can actually collapse the delicate lymphatic vessels and impede drainage. Compression therapy works synergistically with MLD to maintain and enhance treatment benefits. Medical-grade compression garments provide external pressure that supports lymphatic pumping while preventing reaccumulation of fluid. Unlike compression used for venous problems, lymphatic compression must be carefully graduated and properly fitted to avoid creating areas of constriction that could worsen lymphatic flow. The science behind compression therapy is fascinating. By providing external pressure that varies with movement and positioning, compression garments essentially replace some of the pumping function that damaged lymphatic vessels can no longer provide. During movement, the compression enhances the effect of muscle contractions on lymphatic flow, while at rest, it prevents backward flow and tissue stretch. Pneumatic compression devices have emerged as valuable adjuncts to manual therapy. These machines provide sequential compression that mimics the natural flow patterns of lymphatic drainage. Advanced systems can be programmed with specific pressure patterns and timing sequences optimized for different conditions and body regions. While not a replacement for manual therapy, these devices can extend treatment benefits between therapy sessions. Exercise plays a crucial but often misunderstood role in lymphatic management. The key is understanding that lymphatic exercise isn't about intensity. It's about promoting lymphatic flow through gentle, repetitive movements that activate muscle pumps without overwhelming the compromised system. Swimming is particularly beneficial because the hydrostatic pressure of water provides natural compression, while the movement stimulates lymphatic pumping. Skincare represents another critical component of conservative management. Lymphatic dysfunction increases infection risk because stagnant, protein-rich lymph provides an ideal environment for bacterial growth. Meticulous skin hygiene, prompt treatment of minor injuries, and protection from trauma help prevent cellulitis and other infections that can severely worsen lymphatic function. Surgical interventions for lymphatic disorders have expanded significantly with advances in microsurgical techniques. Lymphatic ovenous anastomosis involves creating microscopic connections between lymphatic vessels and nearby veins, essentially providing bypass routes around blocked or damaged areas. These procedures require extraordinary surgical skill because lymphatic vessels are often less than a millimeter in diameter. Vascularized lymph node transplantation represents another microsurgical approach where functioning lymph nodes are transplanted from unaffected body regions to areas with lymphatic dysfunction. These transplanted nodes can help restore local lymphatic drainage while providing a source of lymphatic vessels that can grow into surrounding tissues. Liposuction has found a specific role in treating the fat accumulation that occurs in advanced lymphedema. While this might seem counterintuitive, removing the fibrotic fat tissue can improve the effectiveness of conservative treatments and reduce limb volume. However, this approach requires careful patient selection and must be combined with lifelong compression therapy. Pharmacological approaches to lymphatic disorders are an area of active research and development. Some medications can improve lymphatic pumping by affecting the smooth muscle contractions of lymphatic vessels. Others target the inflammatory processes that contribute to lymphatic dysfunction. Diuretics, commonly prescribed for swelling, are generally not effective for lymphedema and may actually worsen the condition by concentrating proteins in tissues. Emerging therapies include growth factors that can stimulate lymphatic vessel development, gene therapies for inherited lymphatic disorders, and stem cell approaches that might help regenerate damaged lymphatic structures. While most of these remain experimental, they offer hope for more effective treatments in the future. The management of lymphatic disorders requires a multidisciplinary approach involving physicians, specialized therapists, nurses, and often mental health professionals. The chronic nature of these conditions means that treatment is typically a lifelong commitment, requiring ongoing education, support, and adaptation of treatment strategies. Patient education is crucial for successful management. Individuals with lymphatic disorders must learn to recognize early signs of problems, understand their risk factors, and actively participate in their treatment. This includes learning self-massage techniques, proper compression garment use, and infection prevention strategies. The integration of new technologies, including wearable sensors that can monitor swelling and mobile applications that help patients track symptoms and treatment adherence, is enhancing the management of lymphatic disorders and improving outcomes for patients worldwide. The relationship between exercise and the lymphatic system is one of the most fascinating and practically important aspects of lymphatic physiology. Unlike your circulatory system, which has a dedicated pump in the form of your heart, the lymphatic system depends heavily on external forces to maintain flow. This dependence makes exercise not just beneficial, but absolutely essential for optimal lymphatic function, revealing why sedentary lifestyles can have such profound effects on health. Understanding how exercise affects lymphatic flow begins with recognizing the mechanisms that drive lymph through your vessels. The rhythmic contractions of skeletal muscles during movement create external compression that literally squeezes lymphatic vessels, propelling lymph forward through the one-way valve system. Every time you walk, your calf muscles contract and compress the lymphatic vessels running through them, creating a powerful pumping action that helps move lymph from your feet back towards your heart. This muscle pump mechanism is particularly crucial for lymphatic drainage from your extremities, where lymph must travel against gravity. Your legs face the greatest challenge in this regard, as lymph must climb nearly the entire height of your body to reach the thoracic duct. The calf muscle pump is so effective at promoting lymphatic return that it's often called the peripheral heart of the lymphatic system. Different types of exercise affect lymphatic flow in distinct ways. Rhythmic, repetitive activities like walking, swimming, and cycling provide consistent muscular compression that promotes steady lymphatic flow. These activities are particularly beneficial because they engage large muscle groups in coordinated patterns that optimize lymphatic pumping throughout the body. Swimming deserves special mention as perhaps the ideal exercise for lymphatic health. The hydrostatic pressure of water provides external compression similar to medical compression garments, while the resistance of water ensures that every movement engages multiple muscle groups. The horizontal position during swimming also eliminates gravitational challenges to lymphatic flow, making it particularly beneficial for people with lymphatic dysfunction. Resistance training affects lymphatic flow differently than aerobic exercise. While weightlifting provides powerful muscular contractions that can enhance lymphatic pumping, the intermittent nature of resistance exercise means it doesn't provide the sustained stimulation that promotes optimal lymphatic flow. However, resistance training has the advantage of building muscle mass and larger muscles provide more effective lymphatic pumping capacity. The breathing patterns associated with exercise provide additional benefits for lymphatic circulation. Deep, rhythmic breathing creates pressure changes in your thoracic cavity that help draw lymph upward through the thoracic duct. This respiratory pump is particularly important for lymphatic flow from your lower body and abdomen. Exercise naturally promotes deeper breathing, enhancing this mechanism. High-intensity exercise presents both opportunities and challenges for lymphatic function. While intense exercise greatly increases muscle pump activity and respiratory lymphatic pumping, it also dramatically increases capillary filtration, creating a massive increase in lymphatic load. Well-conditioned athletes develop enhanced lymphatic function that allows them to handle these demands effectively, but untrained individuals might temporarily overwhelm their lymphatic capacity during intense exercise. The timing and duration of exercise effects on lymphatic flow are important considerations. Lymphatic flow increases during exercise and remains elevated for several hours afterward. This prolonged effect means that regular, moderate exercise can maintain enhanced lymphatic function throughout much of the day. However, extremely prolonged exercise might eventually lead to lymphatic fatigue, particularly in unconditioned individuals. For people with lymphatic disorders, exercise prescription requires careful consideration of individual limitations and capabilities. While exercise is generally beneficial, certain precautions are necessary. People with lymphedema, for instance, should avoid sudden increases in activity intensity and may need to use compression garments during exercise to prevent excessive fluid accumulation. The concept of lymphatic exercise has evolved to include specific movements designed to optimize lymphatic flow. These exercises often involve gentle, rhythmic movements that activate muscle pumps without creating excessive cardiovascular demand. Deep breathing exercises, gentle stretching, and movements that promote lymphatic drainage patterns are particularly beneficial. Yoga and Tai Chi have gained recognition as excellent forms of lymphatic exercise. These practices combine gentle movement, deep breathing, and positioning changes that promote lymphatic drainage. The inverted poses in yoga, such as legs up the wall pose, use gravity to assist lymphatic return from the lower extremities. The effects of exercise on lymphatic immune function are equally important. Physical activity enhances the circulation of immune cells through lymphatic tissues, improving immune surveillance and response capabilities. Regular exercise has been shown to reduce infection rates and improve vaccine responses, effects that may be partially mediated through enhanced lymphatic function. Recovery from exercise involves important lymphatic functions, including the removal of metabolic byproducts and inflammatory mediators from exercised muscles. Enhanced lymphatic flow during and after exercise helps clear lactate, cellular debris, and inflammatory substances that accumulate during muscle activity. This lymphatic clearance function may contribute to faster recovery and reduced muscle soreness. The relationship between exercise and lymphatic function also explains some common observations about physical activity and health. The reduced infection rates in regularly active individuals may partly reflect improved lymphatic immune function. The decreased inflammatory markers seen with regular exercise might be related to enhanced lymphatic clearance of inflammatory mediators. For optimal lymphatic health, exercise recommendations generally emphasize consistency over intensity. Regular, moderate activity that promotes sustained lymphatic flow is more beneficial than sporadic, intense exercise sessions. The goal is to maintain chronic enhancement of lymphatic function rather than brief periods of maximal stimulation. Understanding the exercise-lymphatic connection provides practical insights for maintaining health and preventing disease, while offering hope for those dealing with lymphatic disorders that effective, accessible interventions can make a meaningful difference in their condition. The foods you eat every day have a profound impact on your lymphatic system, its ability to function optimally. Yet this connection remains one of the most overlooked aspects of nutritional health. Your lymphatic system doesn't just transport the fats you consume. It's intimately involved in processing nutrients, managing inflammation, and maintaining the fluid balance that makes cellular nutrition possible. Understanding these connections can transform how you think about food and its role in supporting this crucial system. The most obvious nutritional connection to lymphatic function involves dietary fats, which take their scenic route through the lymphatic system before entering your bloodstream. This unique pathway means that the type and timing of fat consumption directly affects lymphatic workload and function. After a high-fat meal, your intestinal lymphatics must handle a massive increase in chyle production, sometimes increasing flow rates by 10 to 20 times normal levels. Different types of fats affect the lymphatic system in distinct ways. Long-chain fatty acids, found in most dietary fats, require packaging into chylomicrons and lymphatic transport. Medium-chain fatty acids, abundant in coconut oil, bypass the lymphatic system entirely and go directly to the liver via the portal circulation. This difference explains why medium-chain triglycerides are sometimes recommended for people with lymphatic disorders or fat malabsorption. The quality of dietary fats significantly impacts lymphatic health. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fish, flax seeds, and walnuts, have anti-inflammatory properties that can help reduce the chronic inflammation often associated with lymphatic dysfunction. These beneficial fats may also improve the function of lymphatic vessel smooth muscle, enhancing the intrinsic pumping that drives lymphatic flow. Trans fats and excessive omega-6 fatty acids, common in processed foods, promote inflammation that can impair lymphatic function. Chronic inflammation can damage lymphatic vessels, reduce their contractile ability, and increase their permeability in ways that compromise drainage efficiency. The modern Western diet's high ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats may contribute to the inflammatory burden that affects lymphatic health. Protein intake has important implications for lymphatic function, though the relationship is complex. Adequate protein is essential for maintaining the oncotic pressure gradients that help regulate fluid movement between blood vessels, tissues, and lymphatic vessels. Protein deficiency can lead to edema because reduced blood protein levels allow excessive fluid to leak into tissues, overwhelming lymphatic drainage capacity. However, the lymphatic system must also handle the constant leak of proteins from blood vessels into tissues. When lymphatic drainage is impaired, proteins accumulate in tissues, creating osmotic forces that draw in more fluid and worsen swelling. This explains why lymphedema involves protein-rich fluid that can't be managed simply by restricting protein intake. Hydration status profoundly affects lymphatic function, though the relationship isn't as straightforward as drink more water. While adequate hydration is necessary for optimal lymph formation and flow, excessive fluid intake can actually worsen some forms of lymphatic dysfunction by increasing the volume that compromised lymphatic vessels must handle. The key is maintaining optimal hydration without overwhelming impaired lymphatic systems. For most people, this means listening to thirst cues and monitoring urine color rather than forcing excessive fluid intake. People with lymphatic disorders may need to work with healthcare providers to determine optimal fluid intake levels. Sodium intake significantly affects lymphatic function through its impact on fluid balance and inflammation. Excessive sodium can promote fluid retention and increase the workload on lymphatic drainage systems. High sodium diets also promote inflammation, which can impair lymphatic vessel function. However, severe sodium restriction isn't typically necessary for lymphatic health. Moderate intake as part of a balanced diet is usually appropriate. Antioxidants play crucial roles in supporting lymphatic health by combating the oxidative stress that can damage lymphatic vessels and impair their function. Vitamin C is particularly important because it's essential for collagen synthesis, which maintains the structural integrity of lymphatic vessel walls. Vitamin E protects cell membranes from oxidative damage, while selenium supports antioxidant enzyme systems. Flavonoids, found abundantly in fruits, vegetables, and herbs, have specific benefits for lymphatic function. These compounds can strengthen blood vessel walls, reduce inflammation, and may even enhance lymphatic vessel contractility. Diosmin and hesperidin, flavonoids found in citrus fruits, are used therapeutically in some countries to treat lymphatic disorders. Herbs and spices offer additional support for lymphatic health through their anti-inflammatory and circulation-enhancing properties. Ginger has anti-inflammatory effects and may help stimulate circulation. Turmeric contains curcumin, a powerful anti-inflammatory compound that may help reduce the chronic inflammation associated with lymphatic dysfunction. Garlic has both anti-inflammatory and immune-supporting properties that may benefit lymphatic function. The timing of meals can affect lymphatic function, particularly the intestinal lymphatics that handle fat absorption. Large, high-fat meals create sudden surges in chyle production that can overwhelm lymphatic capacity, particularly in people with compromised function. Smaller, more frequent meals with moderate fat content may be easier for the lymphatic system to handle efficiently. Intermittent fasting has emerged as an area of interest for lymphatic health, though research is still limited. Some studies suggest that periodic fasting may promote lymphatic vessel regeneration and improve immune function. The lymphatic system in the brain, which shares some characteristics with the peripheral lymphatic system, appears to be enhanced during fasting states. Food allergies and sensitivities can significantly impact lymphatic function through their inflammatory effects. When the immune system overreacts to food proteins, it can trigger inflammation throughout the body, including in lymphatic tissues. Identifying and avoiding problematic foods may help reduce inflammatory burden and support better lymphatic function. The gut microbiome has important connections to lymphatic health that are only beginning to be understood. Beneficial bacteria help maintain intestinal barrier function, reducing the leak of inflammatory substances into lymphatic circulation. Dysbiosis, or imbalanced gut bacteria, can increase intestinal permeability and inflammatory burden on the lymphatic system. Prebiotics and probiotics may support lymphatic health by promoting beneficial gut bacteria and maintaining intestinal barrier integrity. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi provide beneficial bacteria, while prebiotic foods like garlic, onions, and Jerusalem artichokes feed beneficial microbes. Certain nutrients are particularly important for lymphatic vessel development and function. Vitamin D receptors are found in lymphatic tissues, and deficiency may impair lymphatic development and function. B vitamins are essential for energy metabolism in the highly active smooth muscle cells of lymphatic vessels. Magnesium is important for muscle contraction and relaxation, including in lymphatic vessel walls. Weight management has important implications for lymphatic health. Excess weight, particularly abdominal obesity, can compress lymphatic vessels and impair drainage. The inflammatory state associated with obesity can also damage lymphatic function. However, rapid weight loss through extreme calorie restriction can temporarily impair lymphatic function due to nutritional deficiencies. Alcohol consumption affects lymphatic function in several ways. Moderate alcohol intake may have some anti-inflammatory effects, but excessive consumption promotes inflammation and can impair immune function. Alcohol also affects fluid balance and may temporarily increase lymphatic workload. Caffeine has complex effects on lymphatic function. While it may help stimulate circulation and has some anti-inflammatory properties, excessive caffeine can affect sleep quality, and adequate sleep appears important for lymphatic function, particularly in the brain's lymphatic system. The Mediterranean diet pattern, with its emphasis on anti-inflammatory foods, healthy fats, and abundant antioxidants, appears particularly beneficial for lymphatic health. This eating pattern provides omega-3 fatty acids, flavonoids, and other nutrients that support lymphatic function while minimizing inflammatory foods. For people with diagnosed lymphatic disorders, nutritional interventions may need to be more specific. Medium-chain triglyceride supplements might be recommended for those with severe lymphatic dysfunction. Anti-inflammatory diets may be prescribed to help manage chronic inflammation. Working with healthcare providers familiar with lymphatic disorders is important for developing appropriate nutritional strategies. Understanding the nutrition-lymphatic connection empowers individuals to make food choices that support this vital system, potentially preventing problems and optimizing function throughout life. The discovery of the relationship between sleep and lymphatic function represents one of the most exciting breakthroughs in neuroscience and lymphatic research in recent decades. For years, scientists puzzled over how the brain, which lacks traditional lymphatic vessels, managed to clear the enormous amounts of metabolic waste it produces daily. The answer came with the discovery of the lymphatic system, a specialized waste clearance network that operates primarily during sleep and reveals why adequate rest is crucial for brain health. The brain faces a unique challenge in waste management. Despite representing only 2% of your body weight, your brain consumes about 20% of your total energy, generating substantial amounts of metabolic byproducts that must be cleared to maintain optimal function. Unlike other organs that can rely on traditional lymphatic drainage, the brain is protected by the blood-brain barrier, which prevents many substances from freely moving between brain tissue and circulation. The glymphatic system, named for its dependence on glial cells and its similarity to the lymphatic system, provides an elegant solution to this challenge. This network uses cerebrospinal fluid as a transport medium, channeling it through specialized pathways to flush waste products from brain tissue. The system relies on aquaporin-4 water channels in astrocytes, star-shaped brain cells that form part of the blood-brain barrier. What makes the glymphatic system particularly fascinating is its dramatic variation in activity between sleep and wake states. During wakefulness, glymphatic flow is minimal, but during sleep, particularly deep sleep stages, the system becomes dramatically more active. Sleep triggers a remarkable reorganization of brain cells, with astrocytes actually shrinking to create larger spaces between neurons, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow more freely through brain tissue. This sleep-dependent activation helps explain many observations about sleep and brain health. The accumulation of amyloid beta plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease may partly result from inadequate glymphatic clearance during insufficient sleep. Studies have shown that even a single night of sleep deprivation can lead to increased amyloid beta levels in the brain, suggesting that chronic sleep deficiency might contribute to neurodegenerative disease risk. The position during sleep also affects glymphatic function. Research suggests that sleeping on your side may optimize glymphatic flow compared to sleeping on your back or stomach. This positional effect on brain waste clearance adds another dimension to sleep hygiene recommendations, and may explain why many people naturally prefer side sleeping. Beyond the brain-specific glymphatic system, sleep profoundly affects peripheral lymphatic function throughout your body. During sleep, several factors combine to enhance lymphatic drainage and immune function. The horizontal position eliminates gravitational challenges to lymphatic flow, allowing more efficient drainage from your extremities. Reduced muscle activity during sleep allows lymphatic vessels to function without the mechanical interference of active muscle contractions. Sleep also affects the hormonal environment in ways that influence lymphatic function. Growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep, has important effects on tissue repair and lymphatic vessel development. Cortisol levels, which normally drop during healthy sleep, can impair lymphatic function when chronically elevated due to sleep disruption or stress. The immune functions of the lymphatic system are particularly enhanced during sleep. This is when your body performs much of its immune system maintenance, with increased trafficking of immune cells through lymphoid tissues and enhanced production of antibodies and other immune factors. The familiar advice to get plenty of rest when you're sick has solid scientific backing in the sleep-dependent enhancement of lymphatic immune function. Sleep stages affect lymphatic function differently. Deep sleep stages, characterized by slow brain waves and reduced consciousness, appear most important for glymphatic activation. REM sleep, while crucial for memory consolidation and emotional processing, may be less important for waste clearance functions. This suggests that sleep quality, not just quantity, is crucial for optimal lymphatic function. Sleep disorders can significantly impair lymphatic function through various mechanisms. Sleep apnea, characterized by repeated breathing interruptions, can reduce the respiratory pump that assists lymphatic drainage while creating chronic inflammation that impairs lymphatic vessels. Insomnia and other sleep disorders that reduce deep sleep time may impair glymphatic clearance and peripheral lymphatic function. Aging affects both sleep quality and lymphatic function in parallel ways that may be interconnected. Older adults typically experience reduced deep sleep and may have impaired lymphatic function, potentially creating a cycle where poor sleep worsens lymphatic function, which in turn affects sleep quality. Understanding these connections may be important for healthy aging strategies. The timing of sleep also appears important for lymphatic function. Circadian rhythms influence many aspects of physiology, including lymphatic vessel contractility and immune function. Shift work and other circadian disruptions may impair lymphatic function, potentially contributing to the health problems commonly seen in people with disrupted sleep-wake cycles. Temperature regulation during sleep affects lymphatic function in interesting ways. The natural drop in body temperature during sleep may help optimize lymphatic vessel function, while sleep environments that are too warm might impair this optimization. This adds another consideration to sleep hygiene recommendations. Light exposure affects sleep quality and may indirectly influence lymphatic function through its effects on circadian rhythms and sleep depth. Excessive blue light exposure before bedtime can suppress melatonin production and reduce sleep quality, potentially impairing lymphatic function. Conversely, appropriate light exposure during the day helps maintain healthy circadian rhythms that support optimal sleep and lymphatic function. The implications of the sleep-lymphatic connection extend beyond individual health to public health considerations. The widespread sleep deficiency in modern society may contribute to increased rates of neurodegenerative diseases, immune dysfunction, and other conditions related to impaired lymphatic function. Understanding these connections provides practical guidance for supporting lymphatic health through sleep optimization, emphasizing that adequate, quality sleep isn't a luxury, but a necessity for maintaining the waste clearance and immune functions that keep us healthy. The intricate relationship between stress and lymphatic function reveals one of the most underappreciated connections in human physiology. While we often think of stress as a purely psychological phenomenon, its effects cascade through every system in your body, including the often overlooked lymphatic network. Understanding these connections illuminates why chronic stress can have such profound effects on health, and why stress management should be considered an essential component of lymphatic wellness. The stress response begins in your brain, but quickly involves your entire body through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and sympathetic nervous system activation. When you perceive a threat, whether it's a charging bear or an overwhelming deadline, your body launches a coordinated response designed to help you survive immediate danger. This response profoundly affects lymphatic function in ways that can be beneficial in the short term, but problematic when sustained. Acute stress triggers the release of stress hormones, particularly cortisol and epinephrine, which have complex effects on lymphatic function. In the immediate stress response, sympathetic nervous system activation can actually enhance lymphatic pumping by stimulating the smooth muscle contractions that drive lymph flow. This makes biological sense. During a crisis, enhanced lymphatic drainage can help maintain optimal tissue function and immune readiness. However, the relationship between stress hormones and lymphatic function is complex and dose-dependent. While moderate, short-term stress may enhance lymphatic function, chronic elevation of stress hormones can have detrimental effects. Prolonged cortisol exposure can impair lymphatic vessel development, reduce their contractile function, and suppress immune activity within lymphatic tissues. Chronic stress creates a state of low-grade inflammation throughout the body, and this inflammatory environment can significantly impair lymphatic function. Inflammatory mediators can damage lymphatic vessel walls, reduce their ability to contract effectively, and increase their permeability in ways that compromise drainage efficiency. This creates a potentially vicious cycle where stress-induced inflammation impairs lymphatic function, which in turn reduces the body's ability to clear inflammatory substances. The immune functions of the lymphatic system are particularly sensitive to stress effects. Chronic stress suppresses many aspects of immune function, including the activity of lymphocytes that circulate through lymphatic tissues. This suppression helps explain why chronically stressed individuals are more susceptible to infections and may have reduced responses to vaccines. Stress also affects lymphatic function through its impact on behavior and lifestyle factors. Stressed individuals often experience disrupted sleep, which we now know is crucial for lymphatic function, particularly the brain's lymphatic system. Stress can also lead to reduced physical activity, poor dietary choices, and increased consumption of alcohol or caffeine, all factors that can negatively impact lymphatic function. The relationship between stress and breathing has important implications for lymphatic function. Stress typically leads to shallow, rapid breathing that reduces the respiratory pump effect that assists lymphatic drainage. Conversely, deep, rhythmic breathing associated with relaxation techniques can enhance lymphatic flow by optimizing the pressure changes in the thoracic cavity that help draw lymph toward the heart. Muscle tension, a common physical manifestation of stress, can also impair lymphatic function. Chronically tense muscles may compress lymphatic vessels and impair the muscle pump mechanisms that are crucial for lymphatic flow, particularly in the extremities. This compression can contribute to the fluid retention and puffiness that some people experience during stressful periods. The gut-brain axis, increasingly recognized as crucial for overall health, includes important connections to lymphatic function. Stress can alter gut permeability and microbiome composition, potentially increasing the inflammatory burden on intestinal lymphatic tissues. The extensive gut-associated lymphoid tissue must then work harder to manage the increased antigenic load, potentially compromising its other functions. Post-traumatic stress and other chronic stress conditions can have particularly profound effects on lymphatic function. The sustained activation of stress response systems in these conditions may lead to long-term impairment of lymphatic drainage and immune function, potentially contributing to the increased disease susceptibility often seen in trauma survivors. Interestingly, some research suggests that lymphatic dysfunction itself may contribute to stress and anxiety. The accumulation of metabolic waste products and inflammatory substances that occurs with impaired lymphatic drainage might affect brain function and mood regulation. This creates another potential feedback loop where lymphatic problems contribute to stress, which further impairs lymphatic function. Stress management techniques that incorporate movement, breathing, and relaxation can specifically support lymphatic function. Yoga combines gentle movement that stimulates lymphatic flow with deep breathing that enhances respiratory lymphatic pumping and stress reduction that optimizes hormonal influences on lymphatic function. Meditation and mindfulness practices can reduce cortisol levels and sympathetic nervous system activation, creating more favorable conditions for lymphatic function. Massage therapy, particularly techniques that incorporate lymphatic drainage principles, can help counteract stress effects on lymphatic function. The combination of mechanical stimulation of lymphatic flow with the stress-reducing effects of therapeutic touch creates synergistic benefits for both stress management and lymphatic health. The timing of stress management interventions may be important for lymphatic function. Since many lymphatic processes are enhanced during rest and recovery periods, stress management techniques that promote these states may be particularly beneficial. This suggests that stress management isn't just about reducing negative feelings, but actively supporting the physiological processes that maintain health. Social support and stress buffering may have indirect benefits for lymphatic function through their stress-reducing effects. Strong social connections can help moderate stress responses and may contribute to better overall health partly through their positive effects on lymphatic and immune function. Understanding the stress-lymphatic connection provides another compelling reason for prioritizing stress management as part of comprehensive health maintenance, while offering hope that effective stress reduction techniques can support optimal lymphatic function and overall wellness. Aging affects every system in your body, but perhaps none more dramatically and underappreciatedly than the lymphatic system. As you age, this crucial network undergoes profound changes that affect everything from immune function to fluid balance to waste clearance. Understanding these age-related changes helps explain many of the health challenges associated with aging, while pointing toward interventions that might help maintain lymphatic function throughout life. The structural changes in aging lymphatic vessels are both visible and functional. Lymphatic vessel walls become thicker and less elastic with age, reducing their ability to respond to pressure changes and contract effectively. The smooth muscle cells within lymphatic vessel walls undergo changes similar to those seen in aging blood vessels, with reduced contractile proteins and altered calcium handling that impairs their pumping function. Lymphatic valves, those crucial one-way doors that ensure forward flow, become less competent with age. Years of mechanical stress can cause valve leaflets to thicken and become less flexible, allowing backward flow that reduces overall drainage efficiency. This valve incompetence is particularly problematic in the lower extremities, where lymphatic vessels must work against gravity throughout life. The density of lymphatic vessels appears to decrease with age, particularly in the skin and subcutaneous tissues. This reduction in lymphatic vessel density means that the remaining vessels must handle larger drainage territories, potentially overwhelming their capacity during times of increased demand. The mechanisms underlying this vessel loss aren't fully understood, but may involve reduced growth factor signaling and increased vessel regression. Lymph node changes with aging are particularly significant given their crucial role in immune function. Lymph nodes undergo structural remodeling that affects their ability to filter lymph and support immune responses. The distinct anatomical regions within lymph nodes become less well defined, and the overall cellularity decreases, reducing the node's capacity to process antigens and mount immune responses. The thymus undergoes the most dramatic age-related changes of any lymphatic organ. This crucial T-cell education center begins involuting around puberty and continues shrinking throughout life, with most thymic tissue replaced by fat by old age. This thymic involution significantly reduces the production of new T-cells, contributing to the immune senescence that makes older adults more susceptible to infections and less responsive to vaccines. Splenic function also declines with age, though less dramatically than thymic function. The spleen's ability to filter blood and respond to certain infections decreases, while its reserve capacity for releasing stored blood cells diminishes. These changes contribute to the increased susceptibility to encapsulated bacterial infections seen in older adults. The formation and composition of lymph change with aging in ways that reflect altered tissue metabolism and increased inflammation. Older adults typically have higher protein concentrations in their lymph, suggesting either increased capillary leakage or decreased lymphatic clearance capacity. The cellular content of lymph also changes, with altered immune cell populations reflecting the changes in immune function that occur with aging. Lymphatic flow rates generally decrease with age due to the combined effects of reduced vessel contractility, valve incompetence, and decreased muscle pump activity. This reduced flow contributes to the increased tendency for swelling seen in older adults, particularly in dependent areas like the ankles and feet. The slower lymphatic flow also impairs waste clearance and immune surveillance functions. The brain's glymphatic system shows particularly important age-related changes that may contribute to neurodegenerative diseases. Glymphatic function declines significantly with age, reducing the brain's ability to clear metabolic waste products like amyloid beta that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. This decline may be related to changes in sleep quality, astrocyte function, and cerebrospinal fluid dynamics that occur with aging. Age-related inflammation, sometimes called inflammaging, has profound effects on lymphatic function. Chronic low-grade inflammation can damage lymphatic vessels, impair their function, and overwhelm their capacity to clear inflammatory mediators. This creates a potential feedback loop where impaired lymphatic function contributes to increased inflammation, which further damages lymphatic function. The immune senescence that occurs with aging is closely tied to lymphatic changes. The decreased production of new immune cells, combined with impaired lymphatic circulation and altered lymph node function, contributes to the reduced ability to respond to new threats and the increased susceptibility to infections seen in older adults. Exercise capacity and activity levels typically decline with age, which has important implications for lymphatic function given its dependence on muscle pump activity. Reduced physical activity means less mechanical stimulation of lymphatic flow, contributing to the age-related decline in lymphatic function. This creates another potential cycle where reduced activity impairs lymphatic function, leading to increased fatigue and further activity reduction. Hormonal changes associated with aging also affect lymphatic function. The decline in growth hormone and sex hormones that occurs with aging may impair lymphatic vessel maintenance and function. These hormonal changes may contribute to the structural and functional changes seen in aging lymphatic systems. Despite these age-related changes, the lymphatic system retains significant capacity for adaptation and improvement throughout life. Regular exercise can help maintain lymphatic function and may even improve it in sedentary older adults. Resistance training can help maintain muscle mass and strength, supporting the muscle pump mechanisms crucial for lymphatic flow. Emerging research suggests that some age-related lymphatic changes may be reversible or preventable. Interventions that promote lymphatic vessel growth, improve vessel function, or reduce chronic inflammation may help maintain lymphatic health during aging. Caloric restriction and certain medications that extend lifespan in laboratory animals also appear to preserve lymphatic function. Understanding age-related lymphatic changes provides insight into many aspects of healthy aging, and suggests that interventions supporting lymphatic function may be important for maintaining health and preventing disease in older adults. This knowledge also helps explain why some older adults maintain better health than others. Those with better preserved lymphatic function may be more resistant to the effects of aging. The recognition of lymphatic aging as a significant factor in overall health span opens new avenues for research and intervention, offering hope that we can age more successfully by supporting this crucial but often overlooked system. The field of lymphatic research is experiencing an unprecedented renaissance, with discoveries over the past decade fundamentally changing our understanding of this crucial system. What was once considered a passive drainage network is now recognized as a dynamic, actively regulated system with profound implications for health and disease. The latest research reveals connections between lymphatic function and conditions ranging from Alzheimer's disease to cancer metastasis, opening exciting new avenues for therapeutic intervention. One of the most groundbreaking recent discoveries is the identification of lymphatic vessels in the brain. For over a century, scientists believed the brain lacked lymphatic drainage, making it unique among body organs. The 2015 discovery of meningeal lymphatic vessels that drain cerebrospinal fluid and immune cells from the brain revolutionized neuroscience and created an entirely new field of research into neurological lymphatic function. This discovery has profound implications for understanding neurodegenerative diseases. Researchers are now investigating whether impaired brain lymphatic drainage contributes to the accumulation of toxic proteins like amyloid beta and tau that characterize Alzheimer's disease. Early studies suggest that enhancing brain lymphatic function might help clear these pathological proteins, opening new therapeutic possibilities for treating dementia. The lymphatic system research has expanded beyond waste clearance to reveal its role in brain homeostasis and function. Scientists have discovered that lymphatic flow varies with sleep stages, body position, anesthesia, and even alcohol consumption. This research is leading to new understanding of why sleep is crucial for brain health and how lifestyle factors affect cognitive function. Cancer research has revealed the dual role of lymphatic vessels in tumor progression. While lymphatic spread of cancer cells is a major route of metastasis, lymphatic vessels also play crucial roles in anti-tumor immune responses. Researchers are developing strategies to block lymphatic metastasis while preserving the immune functions of lymphatic vessels, leading to novel cancer immunotherapies. The discovery of tumor-associated lymphangiogenesis, the growth of new lymphatic vessels around tumors, has opened new therapeutic targets. Some cancers actively promote lymphatic vessel growth to facilitate their spread, while others suppress lymphatic drainage to avoid immune detection. Understanding these mechanisms is leading to personalized cancer treatments based on lymphatic characteristics of individual tumors. Lymphatic vessel regeneration research is revealing the remarkable plasticity of this system. Scientists have identified growth factors that can stimulate lymphatic vessel growth and have begun developing therapies to promote lymphatic regeneration in patients with damaged lymphatic systems. Early clinical trials of lymphatic growth factors show promise for treating lymphedema and other lymphatic disorders. Gene therapy approaches for lymphatic disorders are moving from laboratory to clinic. Researchers have identified numerous genes involved in lymphatic development and function, leading to potential treatments for inherited lymphatic diseases. VEGF-C gene therapy, which promotes lymphatic vessel growth, is being tested in clinical trials for lymphedema treatment. Stem cell research is exploring the potential for regenerating damaged lymphatic systems. Scientists have identified lymphatic endothelial progenitor cells that might be used to repair or replace damaged lymphatic vessels. While still experimental, these approaches offer hope for patients with severe lymphatic dysfunction. The microbiome's influence on lymphatic function represents an emerging area of research with significant therapeutic potential. Studies are revealing how gut bacteria affect lymphatic immune function and how lymphatic dysfunction can alter the microbiome. This research may lead to probiotic therapies for lymphatic disorders or microbiome-based treatments for immune diseases. Advanced imaging techniques are revolutionizing lymphatic research and clinical care. Near-infrared fluorescence lymphography allows real-time visualization of lymphatic flow, while magnetic resonance lymphangiography provides detailed anatomical information without radiation exposure. These technologies are improving diagnosis and treatment monitoring while enabling new research discoveries. Biomarker research is seeking blood or tissue markers that reflect lymphatic function, potentially allowing early detection of lymphatic dysfunction before symptoms develop. Several promising markers are under investigation, including specific proteins and genetic signatures that correlate with lymphatic health. The development of lymphatic targeted drug delivery systems represents an exciting frontier in therapeutics. Researchers are creating drug carriers specifically designed to travel through lymphatic vessels, potentially allowing more effective treatment of lymphatic disorders and cancers while reducing systemic side effects. Artificial lymphatic systems research is exploring mechanical devices that could replace or assist damaged lymphatic function. While still in early stages, these bioengineering approaches might eventually provide options for patients with severe lymphatic dysfunction who do not respond to current treatments. Wearable technology is being developed to monitor lymphatic-related parameters like tissue fluid levels and inflammation markers. These devices could allow early detection of lymphatic problems and provide real-time feedback on treatment effectiveness. The role of lymphatic function in aging and longevity is an increasingly important research focus. Studies are investigating whether preserving lymphatic function could slow aging processes and extend healthy lifespan. Some anti-aging interventions appear to work partly through effects on lymphatic function. Personalized medicine approaches are being developed for lymphatic disorders based on individual genetic profiles, lymphatic anatomy, and functional characteristics. This precision medicine approach may lead to more effective, tailored treatments for lymphatic diseases. Environmental factors affecting lymphatic function are receiving increased attention. Research is investigating how pollution, chemicals, and other environmental exposures might damage lymphatic systems and contribute to disease. This research may lead to new prevention strategies and public health interventions. The future of lymphatic research holds tremendous promise for improving human health. As we continue to unravel the complexities of this system, new therapeutic targets and interventions will emerge, potentially transforming the treatment of numerous diseases and offering new approaches to maintaining health throughout life. As we reach the end of our comprehensive journey through the lymphatic system, it's time to step back and appreciate the remarkable network we've explored together. What started as an investigation into your body as the forgotten system has revealed one of the most sophisticated, interconnected, and essential networks in human biology. The lymphatic system isn't just another body system to memorize. It's a master regulator of health that touches every aspect of your physiological existence. Throughout this exploration, we've discovered that the lymphatic system defies simple categorization. It's simultaneously a transport network, immune command center, fluid balance regulator, and waste management system. Its functions are so fundamental to life that its dysfunction can affect virtually every other system in your body. Yet, despite its crucial importance, the lymphatic system remains largely invisible to most people until something goes wrong. The elegance of lymphatic design becomes clear when you consider the challenges it must overcome. Creating a one-way transport system without a central pump maintaining fluid balance across diverse tissues, providing immune surveillance while avoiding inappropriate responses and managing the transport of everything from fats to immune cells, these engineering challenges would stump the most sophisticated human designers. Yet evolution has created solutions of breathtaking elegance and efficiency. The microscopic initial lymphatics with their pressure-sensitive overlapping cells represent just one example of this remarkable engineering. These tiny vessels solve the complex problem of selectively allowing fluid and substances to enter while preventing backflow, all without any moving parts or external energy source. The lymphangian pumping system, distributed throughout collecting vessels, creates a decentralized pumping network that automatically adjusts to demand. Perhaps most remarkably, we've learned that lymphatic function is intimately connected to lifestyle factors we can control. Exercise doesn't just make you feel better, it literally pumps your lymphatic system and enhances immune function. Sleep is not just restorative, it's when your brain's lymphatic system performs crucial waste clearance that may prevent neurodegenerative diseases. Stress management is not just psychological self-care. It's lymphatic system maintenance that affects immune function and inflammation. The nutritional connections we've explored reveal how your daily food choices impact lymphatic health in ways you probably never imagined. The route that dietary fats take through your lymphatic system isn't just anatomical trivia. It's a fundamental aspect of nutrition that affects everything from vitamin absorption to cardiovascular health. Understanding these connections empowers you to make informed choices that support optimal lymphatic function. The discovery of brain lymphatic drainage has revolutionized our understanding of neurological health and disease. The realization that sleep position, sleep quality, and lifestyle factors affect brain waste clearance provides practical insights for maintaining cognitive health throughout life. These discoveries transform sleep from a passive state into an active period of brain maintenance. The clinical implications of lymphatic research continue to expand as we understand more about this system. Lymphedema is no longer viewed as an untreatable consequence of medical procedures, but as a manageable condition with multiple therapeutic approaches. Cancer treatment is increasingly considering lymphatic function, not just as a route of metastasis, but as a crucial component of immune response that must be preserved when possible. The aging research we've discussed provides hope that lymphatic decline isn't inevitable. While aging certainly affects lymphatic function, understanding these changes opens possibilities for interventions that could help maintain lymphatic health throughout life. The connection between lymphatic function and successful aging suggests that supporting this system may be crucial for healthy longevity. The emerging research frontiers we've explored, from gene therapy to bioengineering approaches, offer hope for people with severe lymphatic disorders while advancing our fundamental understanding of human physiology. The recognition that lymphatic function affects conditions from Alzheimer's disease to autoimmune disorders is opening new therapeutic avenues that may transform medical practice. But perhaps the most important takeaway from our exploration is that lymphatic health is not just for medical professionals to worry about. It's something you can actively support through lifestyle choices. Regular movement, adequate sleep, stress management, appropriate nutrition, and avoiding known risk factors can all contribute to optimal lymphatic function throughout your life. The lymphatic system also teaches us about the interconnectedness of biological systems. Its functions span traditional medical specialties, affecting everything from cardiology to immunology to neurology. This interconnectedness reminds us that health isn't just about treating individual diseases, but about supporting the integrated networks that maintain wellness. As research continues to reveal new aspects of lymphatic function and develop novel therapeutic approaches, one thing remains clear. This system deserves far more attention than it has historically received. Understanding your lymphatic system isn't just academic knowledge. It's practical information that can help you make better health decisions and better understand your body's remarkable capabilities. The lymphatic system represents one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenges of multicellular life. By understanding and respecting this remarkable network, we can better appreciate the sophisticated biology that keeps us healthy and take active steps to support optimal function throughout our lives. Your lymphatic system has been working silently in the background your entire life, maintaining fluid balance, fighting infections, and clearing waste products. Now that you understand its remarkable capabilities and crucial importance, you'll never take this amazing system for granted again. The journey through your lymphatic highways has revealed not just anatomy and physiology, but a new appreciation for the sophisticated engineering that makes human life possible.